Hello, good morning, everyone. Do I have the right course? Yep, Illustrator. Yep. All right, here they come. Hi, Mason.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, that's everyone in. All right, how's it going, you guys? It's nice to see you all. I'm having not much luck connecting to VDI. Hi, Shayna. You weren't here yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, but I was so impressed with your houses.
I watched the video over again. Thank you so much. It was fun making them, honestly.
Well, hold on. There you go.
Also,
Yeah.
I was the one who let someone know how to delete that on the.
Oh, when I said who said the anonymous, yeah.
The comment, yeah, I did that.
Thank you. Thanks for being helpful. I was very impressed with everything that everyone's doing. Vera, you're working hard. Here I'm sharing my Illustrator screen. Here we go. While I'm letting people in, I just yeah, so I saw your question about the gradient, Vera. So we're gonna do more work with colors today, and so I'll help you with that. But it's basically you need a third point. I saw another place where you showed me over here. You showed me your black to white gradient right over here. So I'm not sure why that one didn't work for this, other than you had to move it in to fit within those parameters. Like this would have to be one end of the rocket and this the other. So it
I was
should have
working on a
worked.
separate file and I didn't know if I could move it over. I had a different tab. Okay, so I now learned, I guess you can't do that.
You can. We can transfer gradients over. We're going to talk much more about how to transfer colors today. The other day I thought I showed you guys to copy paste. You just watched the video, Shina. And I show you to copy paste an element. If you do that, that brings the color over. But there's other ways. There's using the libraries, and there's also using saving your colors. So we're going to talk more about that today. But because yeah, so anyway, either you make it here again and you have to give it a third, like a point of black on either end and a point of white in the middle, which is what's missing here, like, or just grab this one that was successful and paste it over. So we'll test that again. So anyway, but thank you so much. I so appreciate you guys posting your attempts, your tries, your successes, your knots. I have to say, I think it's much more fun and it's full of dots. What can I say? I mean, it's a cute little rocket here. And then Monica, you're mentioning here, is Monica here yet? Yeah, you mentioned the outline view. And yeah, sometimes outline view is the best when you want to be accurate, right? When you have all the other stuff out of the way. Most of the times, everything we've been doing has been pretty strict lines, sharp lines is what I'm trying to say. So in the end, where the object ends, it's the same place where the line is. But sometimes you have these fuzzy brushes or something, and you're really not sure where the shape is. And so going into outline view will help. So remind me when I'm opening Photoshop that I'll go there. I'll do that. Let me see. Give me a second while I sign in to Pipeline while I continue. And then there's something else in there that I wanted to, let me just get this signed in. Where was I here? Illustrator. And then, yeah, and then Monica, you're asking about the flags. So here you said futile attempts and you said 1, 2, 3, but is 3 yours? Because if so, that worked. or was it the sample? What? Oh, I can't hear you. Your sound is off.
If you look at it, the fill does not follow the curve.
Oh, okay.
Like it follows the curve on the tips,
So
but
who
it
made?
doesn't follow the
Okay,
curve.
but who made that
there?
curve?
Exactly. No,
So
close
that,
to the pole.
got it. So
There's
the
a
curve is the
triangle instead of the
original one.
curve.
So the curve is the original one, and you were trying
That makes sense. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No.
You don't hear me?
Weird.
Yeah, you were talking over me. I thought that was weird. So you're not hearing me?
Can you not hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me. Good.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I cannot hear you. That is bizarre.
Uh-oh. Can the rest of you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
the rest can hear me, Monica.
No, I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, I took somehow the earplugs didn't work.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. So then ignore the last chat. I was beginning to write. You can hear me. All right. I get it. So these lines here are the original lines that you were trying to imitate.
No, I actually made those lines.
You made those lines. Then how come you couldn't fill them? That's interesting. I'm going to ask you to open up your thing and share, because
when I looked at it later, somehow I hadn't connected those lines. They're not like different anchor points.
They're not showing, they're not creating a closed object. Got it. But okay, so I can help you with it. Okay, that makes sense then. All right, that's why I was like, wait, I understand that these didn't work, but that looks like you got the lines down. Okay. Saul's not here yet, but he's always, going above and beyond, creating all these other awesome shapes. Okay, so really good what everyone's been posting. Thank you. It does say here, Vera, you mentioned that you didn't know how to make your lines wiggly. Okay, so great job on doing as much as the house. It's your second house. But I wanted to go back to Shayla's way down here. Shayna, sorry. Here we are. And can you tell Vera, all of us, of course, what did you do to make this wiggly one? Like, there's so many different ways, and I'm happy to give you some ideas, but you did it there perfectly. So can you?
I just used the pencil and I freehanded it, and then just made a shape out of that. Just made a square and or not a square, a rectangle, but with wiggly lines, and then adjusted each point with the
white arrow
tool. When you press A.
Yeah. The white arrow tool or the A.
Yeah.
It's the direct selection tool. Perfect.
Yeah.
So so basically you just I was going to say there are some filters or effects that give you some wiggliness, but yeah, just drawing with a bit of an unsteady-ish hand is what you did, and it looks wonderful. So
Thank you.
There you go. But just because that was Vera's question here on this one, and so now we can practice a couple more of those options. And anyway, I really appreciate Monica's house is coming along really well. You had a question here though, didn't you?
Yes, I was wondering if there's an effective way to make those horizontal lines.
Yeah, so both of you guys had the question about wiggly, so that's why. So the horizontal.
So two questions. There's the wiggly line for the line at the
and
the
then
lifesaver, which apparently I could freehand.
Okay.
And the other one is the line for the slats.
The slats.
Yeah.
So I don't have the original in front of me, but let me go back to maybe one of
it has horizontal lines
like that, wiggly like horizontal lines.
No, more like the green one,
just like this one. Okay, that would just be little filled rectangles, thin rectangles, or lines.
And then you repeat them and you put them in spaces, or
lines with fat strokes. I prefer rectangles and shapes myself, but yeah, you just make one and then you just kind of drag and duplicate. But once you do, make sure you have like an even distance between them. right? You can either make a whole bunch and then set them all together and align them for having even distance, or you can say, do like 2 or 4 even, and then just duplicate a few times, and that kind of gives it to you. So we can practice a little bit of that. But yeah, you guys are getting so many skills here. I'm very impressed. I have never given such a complicated piece of art at the very beginning to tell people to imitate. I would work on something simpler and then go for something harder, but you guys got this at the beginning and you're really working at it and doing a great job. So I'm very impressed and I like the progress. Yeah, don't give up, keep working on them. Okay. Except for Shayna, you can stop. You're welcome to do them all, but you got it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so let's go over here. Can't sign in to Google. I've been trying to sign in. I had to disconnect and try it again. An issue with getting into Google Drive, which has our files. Oh, there it worked. We have yesterday I was having some issues with the VDI. Yeah, so I'm glad. There we go. So I'm trying not to say it, you guys, but I just need to share because I'm really sad this morning. One of my longest term students that I've had for many, many years passed away a few months ago, or a month and a half ago, but I just found out last night and it made me so sad. Some of you guys have been with me for a long time, not so many in this class, although yes, one of you. And when I say a long time, some of you are like, why? You learn Illustrator and you're done. Why do you need it, right? This is a student who took my Mac and Photoshop classes. But I just so appreciate the constant wanting to do something other than, couch surf and learning and constantly getting better at something you love, right? I mean, who doesn't have at the end of their life a ton of photos that they want to work on and fix? And this was what the student was doing and giving it to his family. And it just hurt me to see. That's 3 of my students who've passed away since the pandemic, since I've been able to see them in person. I just miss them. So anyway, I just found out about it this morning and so it's just kind of still in my brain. And I could have not mentioned it, or I could just tell you, I really do appreciate you guys. You're part of my life. It seems a little bit less now that we're on Zoom and that if I see you in one class and never again, but in the end, I saw this person 2 to 3 times a week for years. And somehow his wife would always send me little cakes and cookies and stuff at Christmas and Thanksgiving. And anyway, never mind.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's continue. It's not just a class, you guys are real people for me. And I like that. Okay, Illustrator.
You're a teacher, I completely understand.
Notice I have my 2 pairs of glasses. And Peggy, you didn't hear me. I didn't notice you weren't there, but I just had a moment. One of the students that you know well, because we've had many classes together, just passed away. I don't know if you remember Bill Wymond.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really sad. I just found out.
Well, that's too bad. And Marie Morrisroe is in the hospital.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm fingers crossed. It's an infection after a hip replacement, but she's been in there a couple of weeks with that, and that's scary.
Thank you for telling me. I'll reach out to her.
Yeah, I will. I definitely will.
Anyway, I mean, I have, depending on the class I teach and what I do, I have a certain age group that take my morning certain classes that are all rather elderly, and it's not surprising, but somehow, why does time pass so fast? Anyway, all right, so guys, let's create a new document. Thanks for telling me. I'll reach out. But that's 3. I have to say, darn cancer, that's 3 of my students have passed away from pancreatic cancer. It's like, okay, that's Was there, is there some relationship or it's not good? So I'm opening a create new, and that's 5 by 5 with 3 artboards. I didn't want to set a sad beginning. I just needed to share with you guys where I was coming from, and actually the appreciation though, because I shared so much of my life with you guys. I don't know so much in Illustrator, but when you guys take Photoshop classes, you see my whole family because I'm showing my photos and a lot of stuff. And it's kind of like everyone's like, how's your son? How's your daughter? Daughter, I don't have a daughter. Why is this not creating? Come on. I said create new. This is very slow. There we go. All right. So we're going to be working more with color today. And let's open the file. We had let's see, from recent, we had last week created colors or gradients. Did you create this one when you watched the video? Maybe Shayna, if not, it'll be quick to create.
I have not yet. I just watched the video.
No, that's fine. So if you guys can find it, we don't need all of the colors or gradients. It's just that we had made some squares at the beginning, the first page right here. So if you have it, that's fine. And if not, it's not a big deal. We can just create a new one. It's just, I don't know if y'all have it accessible or available. So let's just create a new one and just make a couple of boxes. All right. So just make a row, make one box, fill it with some color. And then we're just going to take that box and hold down your, I'm on the Mac again, I'm on the PC again. Hold down your Option or Alt and create a little, let me just, you know what? Since part of the question here, see those little green line, those pink lines that are happening? Vera or Monica who asked me about the lines. When you create one, right? And then you grab the next one and you hold down the command, the Option or Alt key, and you hold the Shift key. When you get that copy out, you can't move it anywhere. You can't do like this or that. You can only hold it in its own line when you hold the Shift key. Then the pink little lines tell you when you've reached the right point, you know? So then without much energy or effort, I've created 4 boxes that kind of end up being in perfect distance from each other, perfectly distributed. So for those of you who are wondering about how to make those lines, this is not a squiggly line, but just a line. So say that you make a little line that's like that, and that's the slat, right? And let me just get a bit closer. Say this is your slat, right? For the house. Mm-hmm. Then all you need to do is hold down your Alt or Option and your Shift key, and then you go down, right? And then by the time you go down to the next one, it starts, you know, giving you those little, see on the far right, those little right there, those little pink markings, and you stop right there. And then you just do the same thing. And then if you want, at that point, you grab 3, right? And then you hold the Option and Alt key, and then you do that, and there you go, right? And then you do it one more, etc. And so that just creates they show up very easily, right, without having to think much, the distance. And then you can grab that again and then just do it one more time. And next thing you know, there's all your slats with like 2 copies, right? Anyway, let me back off and get rid of that. It's not reacting. It's not, what's happening? It's like really laggy. It had deleted and it wasn't deleting. I don't know what's happening to everything. Okay, so here are my, and I left them with a stroke. I'm going to take the stroke away. Okay, so first I'm going to talk a little bit about, I had began talking about process color, and I told you guys I would tell you a little bit more about that. So that's what I want to bring in here. Let's go ahead and select these 4. And if you have not filled them yet, it doesn't matter which color you choose to fill them with, just choose a color. I usually use something that's really contrasty because it's easier for teaching, but hopefully you guys can go for like colors you prefer. Now, if I want to look at my color, and do I have my color palette here? No. It's one of the things I don't like about this new properties panel. I used to have just the colors palette. Now I have to go over here to get the colors palette. Okay. So if I want to, we're gonna begin to investigate the colors themselves now. And say that I have this pink here and I like it, but I want a different color. There's 2 or 3 or more ways to make colors in Illustrator. But the first one is the ones that exist as a default palette, where there's a little combination of flat colors. Colors they call, if I hover over them, there's a couple up here that have names, right? Like up to the top, which is red, cyan, yellow, red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and magenta. And they have those names. If you hover over to the next one, it begins to have, they begin to have the proportions of each color in CMYK. In this case, that's because I've opened a print view. If this had been, let me go say file new just really quickly. You guys don't need to do this, but had I opened a, say, mobile or web and said, okay, to create that, then when I hover, let me create a box with a color and give it that same. Do you notice how it's even a different tone of pink? And when I hover over these, this one's still magenta, but these now are an RGB. Okay, so this is an RGB combination. So this will depend on what kind of file you began with. So, and so going back to the one that we've created from the past, which is this one. Over here, it shows up as, they show up as CMYK. Now, down here, you see a little combo. And if you look at the, not a combo, a little group of colors that have been grouped together as basic set of colors. And here's a little group or folder of just the grayscale. Okay. So this, then you have the none registration and then white and black. Great. So that's the basic set of colors. Now, what if you want to modify one of these? If I want to change it right now, the existing colors, first we're talking about modifying existing colors. If I double click this little spot right there, the pink, then I can get that this one's been given a name. It's CMYK magenta, and it's pure magenta, like 100% magenta and 0 of all the other colors. So this is pure one ink at 100% of itself, I guess, right? Now, if I want to change some of this and I start sliding colors around, right, I'm seeing a little thing happening there, but nothing is changing in the box itself unless I click preview. I click preview down here, then I'm beginning to see the changes in the actual element, which, you know, if you're really going to change it, that kind of makes a bit more sense, right? Now, I don't know about you guys, but moving around CMYK sliders does not seem the best way unless you're really good at mixing colors, at really figuring out what color is going to come out. It's a bit more like, oh, I got lucky and got a color I like, versus really being able to tell what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and say cancel, right, over there. And let's see other ways of making colors. So that would have been a way to make, but then I would have modified. Actually, let me just go back to that. Had I gone ahead and say done one of these things and to modify it into something totally different. Let me make it like turn it into a green or something. If I say okay to that now, the color here is now still called CMYK magenta, but now it's giving me that kind of murky whatever that I came up with. Okay. But if I double click on it, it's replaced the magenta, although it's still called magenta. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and double click again. And hello. Wow. The computer keeps freezing. What's happening? I'm not. I've been disconnected. Wow. Oh, and then it connected again. It's saying that my internet connection is unstable. Let me go check my internet. Got my really strong. Okay. Anyway, it's I'm having issues. Okay, so let me, it's not responding.
I've had the same problem all with the last 3 days with Cox Cable. And it's been cutting in and out a lot.
Wow. Yeah. Looks like when I click on this box, it's opening. Okay, well, it's opening here. Let me try to open the color. Okay, for some reason it wasn't, I don't know why, but anyway, now it's working. Okay, so back to this. So this thing that's called magenta. So yeah, everyone, thanks, Linda. Everyone go to the chat and sign in. I just noticed the little sign in came in case you didn't. Okay. I lost my track with trying to get this to work. Oh, I was saying that double clicking here and changing this, the name hasn't changed. Another thing that when I changed that one box, notice that the rest stayed their original magenta, right? Now, recreating that color isn't hard because in the end, it was just 100% magenta. So I'm going to go ahead and either move the sliders around to give them to 60, or I can just type in here and go 0 tab, 100 tab and 0, and then just, you know, say, okay. I got it the wrong color, did I? Yeah. Thank you. Magenta 100%. Someone mentioned it and all right. So there's magenta. So the most important thing I'm trying to show you is that when you change a color here, it changes only the box that you're selecting. So this one is now magenta again, and this one stayed, even though when I clicked on it, it was magenta, it stayed that color. But that color, the reason this is happening is because this is all a process color. Okay, so keep that in mind. Process color is what we usually call any color that's going to be created out of percentages. Now, there's another type of color that I'm not going to go into right now. If you hover over here, that's called spot color. So that's the, if you want opposite of spot color. Well, I guess I will go into it right now. I'll explain it for a little bit, but I won't have us use it yet. But just let me explain it. When you combine these 4 inks, there's a million combinations or millions of combinations of colors that you can create. And I have a book here, and you can buy these kinds of books and stuff. But this is, I don't know if you can tell, this is called, let me stop my share for a second. If you can see this a little bit better. So I'm going to put it in the like process color manual. And there's these kinds of ideas where if you actually look at it, it's just combinations and combinations of colors, right? So as I said, you can have millions and bazillions of ideas of how colors can combine. And this is just process colors, meaning those 4 inks. All right. But there are colors that you cannot create. There are colors that no matter how much, you know, you try to get them to work, they will not be exactly right. For example, neon colors and stuff. So they do have, you know, printing houses, depending on their quality level and expensiveness, do have other sets of inks that they can buy. Like there's an actual set of neon versions of CMY that they can combine, and then you can get some much more intense colors, but that's rare. Most of the times when you want to go outside of whatever CMYK can create, then, or if you want a very exact color, you can go to spot colors. So I'm going to cancel because I don't want, I'm going to okay this. I just don't want to change that one into a spot color. I'm going to go ahead and.
Could you share the screen, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I stopped sharing and then I forgot to start again. There we go. Okay, so let's say that let's head over here for a second to this page. And I'm gonna put in a little box here, and let's give it a color. And this time I'm going to double click on it. Wow. I can't, it's not, why is it? Something's happening there. Anyway, I went to another color because I cannot get that one to open. Who knows why? I keep them, what's happening? Why can't I? There it opened. Some weird glitch. I can't tell what it is. Okay. So if I go to spot colors, right? So let's switch over to spot colors. You can go ahead and create a color that you want here, but in reality, spot colors don't respond to CMYK. So if we're really going to bring in a spot color, we need to go a different way. So don't just choose spot color from here. And that's why I'm surprised that they give this choice here, because spot colors is not something that you can create. Okay. So if you switch to spot color here, you'll be doing something that's not, I always wonder why they have this choice here. There must be a reason I don't know, but my reason to point it out from here is to tell you don't do that, okay? Say here we can use process color or global, and we're gonna talk about global in a minute. We're gonna go back to that page, talk about global, but let me show you then where to get your spot colors, okay? And what is a spot color? So once you can't create a color here, no matter what combination, all that book I showed you, no matter what combination, use a color that you cannot create, one reason. Or second reason, and most importantly, the second reason, or if you want a color that repeats exactly the same each time, no matter where it gets printed. So what I'm saying is that, say that I am choosing a, yeah, these keep changing on me. This is something weird with this little box today. Say that I decide that my logo, the perfect color for my logo is going to be this purple, right? There you go. I love it. This is my purple. 5685-010. That's how people, they don't call the color, you know, cyan 56, magenta. People just rattle off 5685-010. That's a CMYK numbers, and you write it with a comma in between, and everyone knows that those are the 4 inks that you need. If you send this to be printed by, say, Kinko's, and then you send the same thing to be printed by a professional printer, then you send it to be printed by, I don't know, Alta Vista, whatever. You compare all 3, even though you gave precise numbers of inks, when these purples come back, they'll probably be tad different. Okay, because however well you try to fix and coordinate your ink and yada, 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 printers still will have their own machines. One will do things one way or another, and they'll all be about this color. Some will be bluer, some will be redder, but they won't be precise. Now, if you're a big company like Coca-Cola, did you ever think of the Coca-Cola red? Isn't it clear to you that Coca-Cola red is always exactly the same Coca-Cola red? It's not sometimes orange, sometimes pinkish, sometimes red. So when you have a color that you pretty much want to be part of the trademark, IBM blue, Coca-Cola red, you know, there's just colors that are just the Apple, you know, remember when Apple had all these colors on its, now it's silver a little, but it used to be those 4 lines. People who have a very precise color, then you have to call on a spot color. So let's head down here to the bottom left. Let me give a little bright spotlight to my mouse. There we go. Let's head over here on the bottom left of our toolbar to this box and choose, double click on it to pick up the color picker. Now, since the last color I made was this purple, when I pick up the color picker, that is showing me the color. And by the way, let me supplement, I'm not selecting that. Okay, so that's not selected. So whatever I choose, let's actually, here, I'll make a duplicate so that you can see. Let's have one selected, right? And then you'll see what happens if it is or isn't selected. So here's the one that's selected. When I open it up, the first thing that happens is that the color picker has tons of little numbers here, right? And the way you want to read these numbers is that each one of these is the same color, but said in a different language. And these are different color models. But imagine if I was saying purple in Spanish, purple in English, purple in Chinese, it's just different ways of labeling the same color. So one of the color models is CMYK, and these numbers are the same as before, 56, 85, 0, 10. Another way to represent the same color in RGB would be 121 red light, 65 green light, and 143 black light. Okay, so that would be how to do it with RGB. And then over here, you have HSB, which is signs for hue, saturation, and brightness. So it's another color model. Okay. Now, the last color model we have here is this one that's got this little pound shape figure, which now we all call hashtags, but and a bizarre little number, which is it's a hexadecimal color model, and this is used for websites. This is for code. So say that you're writing in HTML or writing in CSS, and you want this color purple, you would write that number, and this color purple will appear. Okay. So these are 4 ways of naming this color, but all of them are naming a color that, as I said, depending on where you print it, it'll show up about to be this color, right? Now, if for sure what you want is like a color that every single printer, no matter where in the entire world, prints it and it looks identical, then you have to choose a spot color. So let's head down here to the color swatches. And there's, so if I, okay, so color models is these. When I click on color swatches, it's this, and see how now it says color models. Color models takes us back to that. So just remember, these are color models, right? Different languages of describing the same color. When you go to color swatches, then you have other choices here that you can make. And I am, again, surprised because I'm not seeing the libraries. How funny. I'm going to have to bring them up from libraries. I'm not, the color swatches here is not showing me the library. I was looking for the libraries that Photoshop brings up. Illustrator doesn't bring them up from here. Well, then I was wrong. You don't bring it up from here. I'll show you a different place to bring them up for the, I'll show you like color libraries and the spot tellers in a minute. Instead, let me just say that when you go, it's like for the default swatches, you have those tiny amounts. Over here under color swatches, you have like the entire world. You can just do like this, and it's kind of like flipping through that book that I just showed you, and you have many more options that you can come up with. Okay, so let me cancel that because this isn't where I thought I was going to show you. I was going to show you the Pantone colors, which in Photoshop I bring them up from here. In Illustrator, I forgot that you need to bring them up the same way of other colors. So let's cancel that. No, let's go back to color model. Don't cancel that. One more thing I wanted to show you here before we move on. Let's go choose a very bright neon-y kind of color. So I'm going to go to like one of these bright greens, and I'm going to head over to the very top. So over here, you choose kind of the color you want. So you want a red, a pink, a green, a yellow, a blue. So I'm going to leave it somewhere in the bright greens. And then here, you can choose, say that we start at the center point of this color, and I click on it. And that's the color we had before, and this is the color we have now. If I move from here to the left, we're desaturating it until it becomes gray, or to the right, I am saturating it. It's more intense, the most intense and the least intense version of that color. So if I start over here, that's the most intense version of the color, the least intense, which is basically white. So that's saturation. And then if I go up, I get really bright and really dark. Okay, so brightness changes with up or down. And in fact, The one of these color models that really shows you this is this top one, the hue, saturation, brightness, because notice that when I go to the right and to the left, the only thing that's changing here is the saturation, which is that S right there. And instead, if I go up and down from here, look at the only thing that's changing is brightness. If you try to kind of keep your mouse straight, this brightness versus the rest all change, but that one is really showing you the whole saturation and brightness and that. Hue gets decided by this setting. So here I'm changing to 155 and then I go up in brightness, that one's moving, I go there, and saturation, it moves over there. Anyway, so let's go and choose one of these really neon-y type of colors. And you cannot represent that in ink. And these warning signs are telling you that. They're telling you that if you want to have this color printed, if you've made this choice, say that I say okay to that, and that color changes, and I love it, and I'm in love with it, and double click again. This is telling me not going to happen. So I'm going to click on and hover over this thing, and it says out of gamut warning. Out of gamut meaning that, yes, you can see it. Why? Because we are seeing things on RGB. The screen is showing me things in colors of light. It's showing me things in RGB. That is how I'm seeing the screen. But my intention is to print it in CMYK. And this is warning me that this is out of gamut. It just won't work. CMYK cannot come up with this. Even though you have a number of CMYK here, this is not what it's going to look like. So if you click on this little warning sign, click, it shifted it to a color that's going to work. Now, surprisingly enough, that wasn't such an impossibility because it didn't switch much. Let's try some of these. Some of the pink ones change a lot. It's telling me that it's out of gamut. It's showing me what the color can be. And when I click on that, it switched to that. So I don't know if you can tell, but this thing went, yeah, and it moved out. So when you have a color that's out of gamut, it's showing you what it could be or should be, right? When you click it, and so keep an eye on that or on this and see how it moves. When you click on that, it switches. And that little switch sometimes is tiny, sometimes is huge for it to become an in gamut warning. And it's usually easiest to make this happen when you go to these really intense colors where CMYK is just telling you it's not going to print that way. So then things become kind of more muted. Anyway, so if you ever get one of these bright warnings, please go ahead and click on that. Now, what the second one is not so important anymore. Long story short, on the web, at the, for the very beginning of the web, up until, I'd say at this point, 7 years ago, you could really only use a subset of web safe colors. And this is representing web safe colors. If I click on that, see how it really shifted it to a very different number. That shift represents the fact that I don't remember how many there were. There are maybe 150 colors. There's a certain number of colors that you could make your website be. And you wanted, say that you wanted this green, and you went, well, what's the nearest web safe color? You'd click on that and it would give you that color. That's not really a thing anymore. That's now that most people have really bright flat screens and high definition screens and stuff like that. You can pretty much put almost any color in the web that you want. But if you ever want your web page to look identical in one screen than in another, not identical, but that you can control the color that you survive, then you might want to go with a web safe color. So the only way to know what's a web safe color is click on this bottom box, and it'll take you to what, see, I tried to give it that and it came into that. So it's a little bit different. Anyway, but the top one is the one that matters for printing and the bottom one for web. Although, as I said, the web is not really that important anymore. The CMY, for printing, it still is very different. So you go from that you wanted to that you can get. For some things it might give visitors, for some not. As I said, reds, more or less red, purples, blues are the ones that are more sensitive to that kind of thing. Right, so let's say okay. Now let's go to the other place then, the one that I said I was going to tell you about later, which is to get those great spot colors. And where we need to go is into our color libraries. So let's go ahead and click again on the colors, and we're going to head down to this little icon here that's showing me, it's kind of, it's supposed to be a bookshelf, like little books stacked against each other. That's what the icon means. By the way, I'm noticing, Monica, your hand is up. I just noticed.
Yes. Can you show me again where you found the color picker?
Oh, here on the bottom left of the tool panel, you see the fill, double click, and double click on it.
Okay,
and
when
then,
I double click on it, I get something called fill and stroke.
Show me your screen. I can't.
Here we go.
Hold on, I can't see it. Your stuff is hiding for a second. I need to move it out. Okay, there you go. So when you double click on that, no, you're not double clicking. Yeah,
Oh.
there you go. But there it is.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what you were doing, you were getting a little animation. So go ahead and cancel that for a second, so I can show you what you were getting. Cancel that window. When you go to any of these tools, a little animation is popping up. So that stops. So stop right there. That animation is just showing you what you do here. You can fill and you can stroke the colors, and that's all it's showing you. How you can, it's showing you that if you click on that arrow, it switches from fill and stroke. And so that's all that is, but you got to ignore it. But see the arrow, actually, you guys, but can you, no, that's just animation. Go up to the actual arrow it's showing you, like right above, a little bit above that box. Yeah. And what it's showing you, that animation was showing you, is you can swap. So click on it. You're swapping fill and stroke. So now the fill is purple and the stroke is empty. And now click again. And now again, the purple is. So that's what that little animation was showing you.
Okay.
But if you double click on the color, then you get the color picker.
Okay.
Okay, so you had to double click, that's all. Great. No, but I'm glad you showed that, because yeah, those animations can be supposed to be helpful. Once you know what you're doing, you can turn them off from the preferences. But if they're never helpful for you, then you can turn them off from the preferences right now. Oh, Linda. Anyway, yeah, Linda's running out of power. I've had so many power outages. She's got a planned power outage today too. So thank you for your words, Linda. All right. So back to color. Double click on my color. Here we go. So click. I don't know why it's not coming. Here we go. Color libraries. All right. So now color libraries, when I click on them, I have a whole bunch of, oh, my brain is not, I'm not really spot on today, am I? Here we go. Click on the, oh, I'm wondering if that's why, because this thing kept, I wonder if that's part of it. Looks like I got my color libraries turned on. Anyway, long story. Here we go. Fill. Libraries, for goodness sake, let's go. Here are a whole bunch of choices, which all are already defined, right? So say that I want to go to art history colors. And I'm gonna head over here and say that I want to see like Renaissance colors. I'm going to click on Renaissance colors, and then this little box pops open, and you can grab here from the middle of it and make it longer. So these are predefined. Someone sat there and created little groups of colors that are Renaissance looking-ish colors. And say that I like, I don't know, this set of colors or this set of colors, and I want to put them in my palette. So let me just, so that you can see what happens, I'll open this one. So this is mine. This is the one that's in a library, and I go, ooh, I really like these colors. So watch, I'm gonna just, Renaissance 9, I'm gonna double click. And when I go back in here, come on, double click so that they get selected. When I come back in here, they've been transferred. Okay, So I brought that set in. So now I can keep going here to the library again and say, well, how about I want some, let's go back to art history and do completely different Russian poster art. Okay. Or, and I keep going at art history just because it has some, or impressionism, right? So you go, oh, okay, I want these colors for impressionism. Again, double click. When you see the little colors boxes happening, if you go to your color swatch, you've transferred those color settings. So now I have those two. All right. Let me choose something different. Earth tone has, see if it has no little arrow, that means that is it, that is earth tone. If I go to one of these guys, then it gives me many more choices. And it's here that we see things like web sources. So some of these are just, you know, defined. Others are gradients. So for those of you who want to already have pre-made gradients, I'm going to go for like gradients that are fruit and vegetable. I'm going to click on that one. So I'm getting gradients. Gradients is a little bit different. Okay. When you have individual colors like this, if I want this one and I click on it, when I go over here, that one has been transferred, not the whole color book. Okay. Or if I click on this blue one, just selecting it, I move over here, that blue one has selected. Okay. So if you click on 5, all 5 get selected. So this is like the individual one. Okay. I'm going to click on that one. And there you go. It got transferred. So you don't need to double click, nor do you need to bring the whole book of it over. Then, and this is where we get to the conversation I was having about spot colors. Oh, by the way, the metal ones are pretty good. The flat metal colors gives you an idea of colors, but the metal gradients, where's the gradients again? There's the metal metallic tones here, metals, metal gradients. Those are the ones that you might want to pick up from if you can't or don't feel like making your own gradient, Vera, for your rocket. You might be able to click one of these that already have, you know, a gradient made. Now these are actually a little bit different because they go all the way around, but you just, but the fact that I'm testing on 2 or 3 of these, 4 of these, that means that every one of those is being transferred. See? So the moment you test it, you're kind of transferring it over. Okay. So now that's enough for gradients. Color books. Color books is where you get your spot tones. Okay. So just about everyone in the world uses Pantone colors, which are these down here. These are the ones that just, you know, industry everyone knows and has. Now, there are some machines in some places where they might need other brands of colors, Toyos or whatever, kind of. But I would say for the most part, especially in the United States, if you stick to Pantone colors. Now, there's all these different versions of them. So Pantone plus CMYK coded or uncoated means you need to have an idea of where you're going to be printing this. And have you ever seen things that are printed on something that's matte? You know, the paper versus shiny, like a magazine is on shiny paper. That's shiny paper is coated. After they printed it, actually has a coat of shine on it, right? Glossy, shine. So that's the difference between coated and uncoated. And you know how color looks very different if it's glossy or if it's matte. So you basically have to choose. You actually probably need to check with your printer to see what colors they have available. Solid coated, solid uncoated, and stuff like that. So the more typical ones would be, or if you want a metallic color, then that would be something that a lot of people do use. It's very hard to get you can't get a gold out of CMYK. You just get a tone of brown that kind of imitates CMYK. So whenever you assign one of these colors, so let's go for the top one, CMYK coated. Then under every color under the sun, I mean, this goes, it's really long. Okay. So each one of these has a name. So let's hover over them. And this one is Pantone P5216C. And this one is Pantone P4816C, and so on and so forth. So you choose one of these colors. I'm just going to click on one of them. And that, if I have it defined as a color, and by the way, just clicking on it, transferred it. See, it transferred it. Then that comes in with that name. And then when you print, this would be, first of all, much more expensive. You need to know, you don't easily just print Pantone colors. Why? Because it's one more pass. So you have 4 colors, you have to pass, the ink has to go 4 times through the machine, and then it has to go one more time to set the Pantone color in. But if you're just doing, say, a box that's red and black, you know, I'm going back to say Coca-Cola, and the only color you're going to have is red or white, right? Because most of the time they have this red box and then they have, you know, white letters and maybe black or something part of it. Then in reality, you're only doing a 3-print color. So you're doing the red, the black, and maybe the white is the base. I don't know. It depends on the machine. So really it's a 2-color process. So you need to ask your printer. It might be cheaper to put through a 2-color with Pantone ink than it might be to do a CMYK. But if you're going to be using Pantone to elevate, like you're going to print the logo in a brochure for Coca-Cola that also has photos and stuff like that, all done with CMYK, then it's an extra pass. Okay, so it's not like they just put that in there as another ink. They can't. It's just it's a whole extra thing. And not every printer can do that, and not digital printers can't do Pantone colors. So you are limited. It has to be one of the printers that it's sheet fed, you know, web fed, where they can put different inks of colors in there. But it's very widespread that people who have logos that, you know, matter, like where they really care and they have the money, they will not just leave it to chance to you to print their logo. They will just choose a color of blue, a color of red. Like if you Google what's the Pantone color for Coke, it comes up, right? Stuff like that. There's all these different, or not, maybe they hide it because they don't want you to imitate it. I don't know, but meaning it's very clear. So these are, so I've clicked on 3 of them. And when I click on them, see, I've brought over 3 different Pantone colors. Now, Pantone colors that have this little white swatch underneath, that's because the Pantone colors are global. So now I'm going to go explain what global means in a second, because I haven't explained that. But this happens to be Pantone and global, which is 2 different things. Okay, so now I've decided that that's what I'm. And by the way, when you look at the name of the Pantone, say, let me hover over this one. It says Pantone, which is then is the brand name. But then after that, it says P155-16C. So P stands for Pantone. 155-16 is the code number for that color. And then C stands for coded. So if you go and choose another one of these, if I go back to color books and choose uncoded, and then I hover over this color, then it's P155-8U. That stands for uncoded. Okay, so each one has their own little code of how to do it. All right, so that's spot colors. Other than that, there's patterns here as well. So let's bring in some patterns, and you can have like basic graphic patterns. So I'm going to go to dots, for example. And so again, you have some cool little dotted patterns. And so I'm going to go and click on one of these. And then I'm going to go click on, I don't know, one of those little tight ones, or that one that has a little gradient teller. So I brought in a couple of different options for dotted dots. Then I'm going to go, just clicking on them brings them in. Let me go back to patterns and choose some textures. And so I'm going to go with, you know, that texture or that texture or that texture. They're even hard to see, right? You have to just test them. Basically, you have to put them on to test them. All right, and every time I click on them, they're being transferred. They're being transferred. They're being transferred. All right, and now the last type of patterns, where am I? Has animal skins or foliage, and those are the samples that we have there already. Come from here. If you go to foliage, these are kind of fun. So I'm going to click floral vines. And I'm going to show you something about patterns in a minute. I'm going to click another little floral vine. For that one. Okay, so those are different ones. And last one is animal skins. And so I'm just bringing in a couple of different patterns that we can do some testing, seeing how the patterns work. All right, enough. One last thing about this is like here, okay, it'll say skin tones. I'm not sure that this represents all the skin tones that you can imagine already seem to be missing. So I don't know why they don't update this, but I would think that there's a whole variety of the darker tones that are missing here. But anyway, so anyway, whatever. These have been here for eons. I don't know if they'll ever switch them or what they're doing. I don't know. Okay, so that's how you transfer a bunch of these colors over. Now, oh, if you wanted to see which are the web safe colors, here you go. These are the web safe colors, and I don't know how to count, but these are the ones that are the only ones considered web safe, which for many years meant you could only design this set of colors. So it's pretty limited, pretty restricted set of colors. All right, and then I have, and you probably don't have, something called user defined, and these are colors that groups of things that I have defined. So we're going to work on creating something like this for ourselves. And that is how you save colors to transfer from one place to another. So I'm going to leave this for now. I'm going to close this little window because basically at this point in my swatches, I have not only the default sets, but all these little gradients that are brought in, a couple of Pantone colors, some dots, some patterns, some, and then 2 or 3 little color libraries, right? Usually I bring a few more color libraries in. Let me just bring another color library of some kind. I'm going to get food, fruit colors. Let me get some fruit colors here. Get a series of purples and a series of blues. I guess that's for blueberries. Okay. So anyway, now I have a couple more color groups here that I've transferred by double clicking and a lot of individual ones. All right. So let's go ahead and before we are done with this side, we start, let me just make a couple more of these. So I'm just duplicating them and then duplicating them again. And I'm going to just select a couple of these different new choices to paint them, you know, some of these things that we made. So I want to show you some different things about these patterns. So now I'm just going to go with some of these colors. Gradient. It's reacting very sluggishly. Here's a Pantone color. And here's one of these little special blues. So here, okay. And now I've used a little bit of everything that I just brought in. That said, these colors are still repeatable in the sense that they exist. I didn't make them. And if I open any other window, right, I can just go find that same color library and bring it in. And that's the intention, to have something that's defined. So what if we create our own right now? So I'm going to make a couple more, just make 4 big ones, and I'm going to create my own colors now. And you don't need to create 4 or 5 or have it be exactly this or anything, but I'm just going to do that. And wow, it's really sluggish. I feel like it's barely moving. By the way, when I made these, notice that I didn't worry about having them be there. Okay, so now I'm going to create my own colors. So I'm going to go over here to the color picker, and I'm going to choose something willy-nilly, just something I want that I don't see anywhere else. Let me see, a little mint green or whatever, something like that. And I'm going to go say okay to that one. All right. So this one we did last week. I believe that if I create a color that I want, Do you remember how to turn it into a swatch now? Who remembers? This doesn't exist. I didn't come from Color Library. I made it myself in the color picker. How do I save this as a color? I hear you're talking, Peggy, but I don't.
You go back to the fill and on the bottom down there,
Yep.
plus.
Plus sign, yay. There we go. And as before, you can give it a name or you can leave it at its CMYK colors just for the fun of it. And because we're gonna be able to distinguish it later as the one that we created. Call it Diana's green. Just gonna say okay. And then it shows up as your own. So now let's make a couple more. I'm going to select this and double click, and I'm going to make an orangey-ish yellow. And I'm going to call this one Diana's yellow. And you don't need to call it your name, but for this, I'm calling it because I brought so many other palettes and stuff. I just want to make sure that we're one. So go ahead and create yourself 4 or 5 little colors. And call this one Diana's Periwinkle. Plus sign Diana's Periwinkle. Complicated there. And one last one. Let's go with what would work with those 4 colors and make some kind of a muted-ish bold pink, more like salmon toned there. All right, so and now I'm going to call this one Diana's bold pink. All right, so here we have colors that I've created. So now we have just everything under the sun in this palette, existing stuff I brought in and one that I've created. Now, what I wanted to show you about this patterns though, is that if you move the box, I think we had already showed that here, but I'm not sure. The pattern stays. You see how you would have expected the pattern to go with you, but it doesn't. It's like you're filling them in with a pattern that kind of sticks in there, which is the reason I wanted to show up that pattern. Now, this one on same thing. So if you want it to be exactly on, dots or whatever, the patterns and fills did that. Now, not the gradients. The gradients are colors that comes with you. Okay, but it's just something that happens to these little filled in patterns. All right, you move it around and the pattern stays put. All right, just wanted to show you that about patterns. All right, did everyone create their own colors?
Nope.
All right, someone say nope. Who's that? And just create one of your own colors. You don't need to create 4 of your own colors. Just create some colors. All right. That's, by the way, let's save this file. It's been a while. Let's call this one more colors, because last one we called colors and gradients. Let's call it more colors. I'm saving it always to my drive. I'm gonna say okay. All right. Now, we're going to be creating something new out of this, but I want us to go back to the first page because I want to show you the difference between process colors and global colors. So we're going to do that in this page. Okay, so all of these at this point, this is the only one that's a global color right now. And how did you know it was a global color? Well, because when I created it and look at the palette, it has that little white little triangle underneath right there. So the spot tones came in as global colors. If I were to double click to check it out, it's telling me that it's a Pantone 20cc. That gives me the name. It tells me that it's a process color, but that it's global. Okay, we're going to cancel. That's set in stone. I didn't change it. I didn't choose it. you can't like choose CMY colors and just say, I want a Pantone color. You need to have it be, you have to have the name of that Pantone be exactly the right one. All right. Now these had also been process colors, just for the sake of, if you have this one that was different, I'm going to go ahead and select and put it back in a new one of these in here. These are all the pink that's a process color. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy. This is copy. And bring this whole row down. This is a whole different set of colors. I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to select this and give it one of, let's select all of them all at the same time and fill them this time with one of my colors, whatever color you made, you guys make it. I'm going to go with that one. Okay. But I'm going to double click on it and call it global. This is one of your colors that you made. You're just going to call it global. It's a process color, but it's global. And then we're going to say, okay. That's the only difference. These are two colors, default or not, that doesn't matter. But this one is not global and this one is global. Everyone with me?
How do I make it global?
Okay. I just want you to select all of those first so that all four of them end up global. And then you go to your color, double click, and just click on this. This turns it into global or off. Just turn into that. That's all. And there's nothing really to preview in the sense that all you're doing is marking a global, but nothing really is changing. So you say, okay, nothing is changing in the color. It's the same color, but it's a global color. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and select one of these. And this is the same thing we did at the very beginning. So I'm going to select one of these. I'm going to double click and I'm going to want to change it. And I believe that's the color. And I'm going to change it into something else. And I'll say, okay. And it's changed. Now I'm going to change this last yellow. Double click. Watch for a minute. I forgot to do the preview before. I need to turn on the preview. So watch what's going to happen. I'm going to change it just like I changed that one. Oh, I'm trying to find a way to show you where you see what's happening. There we go. I'll put it up here. Okay, so I opened up this yellow, the global color. Now I'm going to change the global color to a bit more orangey. I'm going to turn it into a little pinky, purple, dusky. What's happening?
So does global color mean that whatever is that color will automatically change as well?
Yeah. You hit it on the nose. So
Kind of obvious.
if it's a non-global color, you change the color. This one's gone from my palette now. Like if I want to go back to this color and I click over there, that doesn't exist up there because I've switched it to become this purple. So if I were to want this one again, I would kind of have to create it again as a swatch, right? And call it something. But that thing that used to be magenta is now that deep purplish, right? It's not that magenta anymore. So I had to kind of create that color again if I wanted. But beyond that, the most important thing is that this color now, I can change it. I can go to this and change it again and keep changing it. And it only changes in this instance. So if I preview and I change this, it'll change this instance of that color only. Okay. Go for very obvious change. There we go. Now, when you are designing something where you're trying to choose the colors of each little bit and piece, you want to have just process colors, obviously, because you want to be in control. You want this petal, this color, that petal, that color. Why would you think that a global color, or when do you think a global color might be useful?
Well, I had it at my house when I made the little beach house. There were certain colors that were always the same. And it was too light. I wanted to make it darker. So I made it darker, and then I had to go into the little eyedropper thing and change it at every little thing. So if it would have been global, then it would have just automatically changed, correct?
Perfect example. And you guys noticed that she noticed this because she did some extra work on her own. And I really want to appreciate that, because had you not tried that out, you might have just been in here waiting for me to define it. But the fact that you had the experience of having to, oh my God, go in and find 10 little things and change each one, it's like makes you not want to change anything, right? So yes, let's go and then to one of these. And so I'm just opening this one. And yeah, so say that you decide that this is the color you're going to use. And you use it a bunch of times. And then when it's done, you look at it and you go, God, I wish it had a little bit more blue. You're right. You would have to go and select this, make it a bit more blue, select that a bit more blue, select that a bit more blue. You know, you'd have to go in and, or all these little bits and pieces of this,
Right.
all the little different shapes that include this. So yes, when you have something where many things are affected by a color, the moment you make an adjustment, it adjusts everywhere that color is painted. So you would just adjust this green color and your entire fencing would shift. As long as you decide what you're doing, and if it's worth it. I'm just going here to Saul's. In this case, it's just a simple two times green. But what if you change one green? You'd have to go and change the other. This happens to be a gradient, I'm noticing now, but if you change one of the gradients, then the other one is going to change too. So most importantly, when you have repetitive things in an individual element, but also say that you were creating a catalog, many pages, right? Or, something that's got to be, let me head back. That's got to be in every page. And I always show textbooks, for example, and I had a textbook here. My goodness, I just did an absolute disaster. Anyway, never mind. This textbook over here. And you see how, I don't know if you can see it, but let me stop my share for a second. But do I have enough light? I have all these lights on me, but there's elements that exist on every page. And I'm showing you these little boxes here where one chapter is blue, one is green, one is red, similar elements. Or even if you look inside, there's a little red dot everywhere, there's a little blue thing in the bottom. And there's a lot of things that get described out of color. And then you send it to your client and they go, oh, I hate this yellow. I want it to be more whatever. And can you imagine having to change 200 pages of that yellow? So for repetitive elements in the long run, like a whole thing that I'm just telling you about, or for repetitive elements, like you said, inside of one drawing, you want to use global colors. But be careful, because you can have the same color twice, right? You can have this color in global, and then you can have this color again in non-global, and make sure to mark them as global and not global, because maybe you do want to be able to use that color in a flower. And next thing you know, it's the same color used in the porch. And then when you change the porch, the flower suddenly changes, right? So you have to be aware that even though they look the same color, you can have two of them, one which is processed, one which is global. One is global, they're both processed, but one isn't global. Does that make sense, you guys? Because you wouldn't want to have put that same color. I'm going back here. or maybe someone who has more houses. I'm going to Shane as here. You wouldn't want to say, oh, the color here is not good. But if you happen to use one of these elements, have that color, when you change that color for all of that, then suddenly your bell also changes, for example, right? Or in this case, maybe this may be the surfboard. You don't really have many repetitive colors here, but say that you change the fence and the surfboard had been colored in the same color, then suddenly your surfboard changes. So here you would want to put global color to all these parts and pieces, but here you would want one that's not global so that you don't change things inadvertently.
Screen share.
Oh my God, I haven't been sharing. What's up today with sharing? Sorry. Back to, okay, so I was giving this example where let's imagine that this surfboard is the same tone as that pink, right? You would want to have this be global so that anytime that you change this one, all of these changes, but you wouldn't want to make this one not be global because you don't want your surfboard changing with that. Maybe you turn all of this into brown, then your surfboard would go brown. So you can have the same tone in two versions. That's all I was trying to say. All right. Cool. So that was, anyway, that was the process versus non-process. And the fact that here, when you do modify it, had you called this one bright pink, or like it was called, you know, cyan magenta. And if you click on it now, there's nothing magenta about that color. There's that's now called magenta, right? Which doesn't make sense because it's not magenta. All right. I wanted you to apply some of these colors that we transferred. So hopefully you have had a chance to put some more of these colors or patterns in here in some of these boxes. Maybe I'm going to choose a couple more of these because I'm going to show you one last thing. I'm going to use a few more of the colors that we created down here. I'm going to go with that color, and I'm going to have this one be this color. I'm just going to stuff that we brought in. Okay. Now there's a whole bunch of colors in here now that I've used, but there's a whole bunch of colors that I've not used, right? And patterns and stuff, it's just beyond what I need. So when you're done, say that this is your final version of this design, and we're imagining that it's a complicated design and we've used all these colors in it, and we want to save this document for posterity and whatnot. It's a really good idea to clean it up and to only leave the colors that have been used. So if I hit over again, I missed the color, but like I like having it here where you can use the, let me actually show you one more. Let me show you one more thing with color, and then we'll do what I've just said. Let's head over to the first page. Last thing about new color showing, and let's actually copy, let's copy the top that is not process colors down here. And then I'm gonna, I don't like how limited it is that you only get this set of palettes and nothing else. But say even if this is all you're getting, there's some other things here that we have, which is the color themes panel, the swatch kinds, and the swatch options. So these are all little panels that I want to show you. But the main one I want us to, well, the one I want us to open right now is this one called Color Themes Panel. And I'm going to click on that. Really? Oh, I had read that we were going to take it out of the Illustrator. All right, it's been removed from. Okay, there's a whole, they're trying to have, it makes sense. They're trying to have a site that has, for all the Adobe products, the same capabilities for color. In the past, some products had better access to color choices than others. So they're trying to do it on the web page. But anyway, let's do this. Let's open the window and go and open the color. Whoops, go to window and open the color panel, which I had already put over here. and then open the window and the color guide, okay, which I had over here. And then this is the gradient. So these are just, I had, for you, they probably came out loose like that. I had just stuck them in here because I like accessing them. And let me show you something about these colors. So I need to zoom in a little bit more. And the color guide, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Color guide is really useful because when you want, did you all find the color guide? Okay. The color is really useful because instead of having to invent your own colors each time, you might want to invent your color, but then you want to play with versions of that tone, shades of that tone. Maybe in the house, you need the little shadow of the box. So get over here. So maybe you want the shadow. I'm opening one of your guys' little beach houses. So maybe you want this, the shadow of this green to be a tone of this green, not to invent another green, or you know what I mean? You want things that are related, but you're not sure which tone. So here we have sometimes an example of undercolor, like, let me go back in here, like the shade, the dark shade between the chimney, if that's a chimney or whatever it is, the head pink, and that little should be a tone of that color for it to look like it's really a shadow. And over here, you've done that well, where it's a tone that really doesn't look like another color there. It really does look like a shadow. It's not that easy to find those the right shadows, right? So here you did it. So one of the ways that we can do that is using the color guide. So for example, if this is a color you chose, then you can have versions of it. You have shades up here. Well, let's go down here. Here you have shades, darkers or tints. So say that you want that version in a little bit darker to make it be the shade. Let me actually, I'm sorry. It's fine however you do it, but I'm gonna go ahead and make this same color be on all of these, right? So let me color it again. I think it was this one. And I think this, just trying to get the same color. I hate that all the panels are on top of each other. Okay, so I'm just coloring the same thing. I should have just selected all four. Coloring the same thing, all of them, right? Okay, so now that's the original color. Now I'm going to go to the guides and I'm going to get versions of it. So I'm going to go a little bit darker for that one. I'm going to go this one. I'm going to go a little bit lighter for that one, right? And I don't have to think about it. It's just given to me there. Or I'm going to go quite a bit lighter for the side of the house where the sun hits, right? So actually I can go so much later. Go quite a bit later. So you know already that these are going to work. So this is the original color, and that'll be the dark shaded side. This will be when it has a bit of sun, and this is when the sun really hits it. Now, so you just use that and instead of having to go in the color pickle and create all those colors yourself. Now, another thing you can do, and let's get this set here duplicated again. Let's start again with this first color, is you can go ahead and actually not just do shades and tints. You can actually, over here, you can actually choose different types. So this is called color harmony. If I click on this, I can decide that I want complementary colors to this one, or split complementary to this one, or left. These are all different ways, or color models, or just, you know, color theory, tetrads, triads. But in one way or another, they'll be related. They won't be just random colors, right? They'll be partly colors that have some kind of color model or color theory type of set. So here I'm going to go with analogous, right? So I'm going to choose analogous, and so then that's the set. And now I have my analogous colors here. So then everything that's showing here, as opposed to before it was harmony, now it's showing me colors that are going to work well. So now I'm going to go, if that was my base color, maybe then this one, I'm going to go for that. And then you gotta double click, and then I'm gonna go for that, and I'm gonna go for this. Wait, well, let me go for another one that's a little bit brighter. That. So you know, again, that this was your base color here, and you just went with tints and shades of it. Or now you start with this one, and then you go with analogous colors to it. And see how it's already easy to see that these work with each other? All right, so that's what the color themes help you do, help you find color. You don't need to be a designer to know, you know, you can have a good eye for color and just choose color yourselves, or you can just use any of these to make it be more helpful. So now I'm going to go and say, if I click this pink, this green color, and then I just go look for, and I have to be outside of that thing. You can go and choose this one and then start seeing anything that's analogous or tinted or colors to this one. Click on this one and suddenly you have all these shades and tints, or I go down to analogous or tetrad or whatever for this color. Okay. So anyway, just wanted to show you that because that just makes choosing colors easier than just hoping that you have a good eye for color. Usually I do as example with flowers is really good, because then you get to choose, like, make a flower and have all these different colors that really work for the different petals, that it's still the same flower, it's just shades of that flower's petals depending on where the light is hitting them. All right, so hopefully you've painted your stuff with some of these color models, color guides. Yeah. If you have a whole page of boxes, again, it doesn't need to be as tidy as I have it. Go ahead and copy it down here, because we're going to do one last thing, and then this one we're going to apply later to another illustration that I have in the settings. But right now we're going to go with this last set here, and let's choose them. And we're going to go to edit and edit colors. And then we're going to head over to recolor artwork. I feel like I just showed this, but I know that I finished teaching Illustrator right before I started with you guys. I didn't show this group the recolor artwork, did I? Okay. Sometimes I think when I teach things many times, I teach them. When I teach Illustrator, usually it's not like one after the other. Usually I'll have a few weeks in between, but this one I finished 1 week with one group and I started the other group. So sometimes I get a bit confused. Okay, so that I'm trying to show the most of one by still showing the colors up here. All right, so say that you've already finished your art and you've decided you've colored it, and now maybe you've painted a whole flower with many different tones, and then you want another flower, but you don't want to re-choose all your colors for the different types of petals. Maybe you just want to use this tool, and maybe you can grab, when it first comes up automatically, it's showing you the color wheel, and it's showing you all the colors that in this page you've used. And here's my little purple over there, here's my green, and the rest are many tones of orange. What if I grab one of these and just kind of spin it over a little bit? And look how I've changed all those colors. Or I can spin it over into the greens, into the purple. So here I'm basically spinning just a regular spin, right? So I'm not doing too much more to change it. So if I were to go somewhere near to where I had it before, I should have similar colors to the ones I've had at the beginning. Does that make sense? Now, the thing though is that I can move these in or out. When I move them in, I'm getting lighter tones of that. When I'm moving it out, I'm getting more saturated tones. Okay, so just like the color wheel, saturated colors are on the outside, the lighter, brighter colors are on the inside. Lighter, these more desaturated, let's say. This isn't so much about lighter or darker.
Deanna, how did you get the circle?
Okay, so I went to object, sorry, edit, and edit colors, recolor artwork.
Okay, thank you.
And then you get this one where you can, what's happening here is that everything is still kind of related to each other. You're moving them around, but they're all kind of keeping that same or similar relationship to each other, where these were shades of the same color, remember? And these were analogous, and these were just a bit of everything. And here, this one was just all the same. But does that make sense? What I'm talking about when we say we're keeping the same relationships between them? Maybe you're making them all lighter, all darker, but if you have a whole bunch of purplish tones down here where we had those pinkish ones before, they're still going to be all purplish, but with one little couple up here that were a different tone. And I know you have different colors than mine, but if I, here, but these are still basically a set of tones of one color, and these are analogous to one color, so to say. Okay, that's one thing you can do. On the other hand, what you can do is you can decide to like cut this link up, just unlink. Okay. And now you can actually move one color around and just decide that this color is going to go from being that little brownie thing to being a bright pink. There we go. Or now I'm going to grab that kind of mint greenish, which I believe is this one. I'm going to make it go into the, into the yellows. And there we go. All these yellows change. So you can actually be much more free to move things around. They might not end up being harmonious. So say this group where it was the shades and whatever, I might end up messing one up and having suddenly a green in here, because you're completely changing things based on wherever you want them to be. So imagine if this, instead of being boxes of colors, was your houses, right? You've created a house and you just go, okay, the green one, I want now to turn into blue, the blue one into purple, the purple into whatever, right? So it doesn't need to be any rhyme or reason as to why you're choosing one over the other. So now you have a mess of colors that don't match anymore, but you've chosen them yourself. Okay. There's a couple of other things here that you can choose. You can click on change the color order randomly, and then suddenly everything is completely like, you don't even have any say on it. Or over here where you change the hue and saturation randomly, and each time you click, it does something else. So maybe you're just like, I wonder if this will look better like that, like that. You're kind of letting Illustrator make these choices for you. So you might hit on some combination that works. It's a bit of a guessing game there, but who knows, maybe Illustrator finds a new game. I have never really had much of a reason to use these random ones so much, but I've tried it here in when I demo this. I've opened some artwork and just said, hey, I wonder what it looks like that, and just have some good. Usually when I design something, I know the colors I want, so I haven't used a random one, but this part of just wanting to change colors at the same time has really been very useful. Mainly when they're in sync, so that I'll just have a different version of that same house, but now in green tones or in yellow tones or in whatever. Okay, so by now I've messed up my colors completely. There's no rhyme or reason to all of these colors, but notice though that everything that was in the same color, some distinct color. All right, other things I can do. So I've shown you that. I can head over here and notice that we're looking at the hue saturation on the color wheel. I could have also been looking at the brightness and hue. So it changes what I'm looking at. Doesn't really change much the colors, but it's just a different way of seeing colors. I'm more accustomed to seeing them in hue saturation, so they're that. But then over here, you can change to have darker or lighter. So, when I was saying that you had hue saturation before, that I made it brighter. Well, what if we want all these colors, but in darker, right? So then everything darkens up, or all these colors, but in much, much more saturated and bright. Okay. because otherwise you were still stuck within one theme. Right, so here's where you play around with that. And that was the center point or the starting point. So here that's hue saturation. And then with this one, you'd go with lightness or brightness. So can you imagine, look at all the different colors I've been making at this point. It's like, it's pretty crazy. How much I've been able to change there. Okay, so hopefully this isn't even the advanced options. This is just a bit more random choices. Again, up here, you can choose color libraries. So maybe you want to paint all of these with Middle Ages colors, and boom, the whole thing changed into Middle Ages tones. And so this is a bit more, instead of a very random, instead of the original wheel, we have a more random group of choices because the Middle Ages was just these palettes, right? So then I'll take and I'll say, well, I want the green to become this blue one, or maybe I want that setting. And so then you choose one of each. Get this green to go into the red, so you can point, I want this green, this blue to be that one, I want this to be that yellow, et cetera, et cetera. I want them to be that orange. So anyway, that was a whole bunch of Middle Age tones. Or let's go, again, I'll go to art history and let's say pop art. Yay. So suddenly I have those colors for pop art. All right, are you having fun yet with colors? Hopefully you're doing this and you're not just watching, because this is just playing around, but it's also helpful because then you'll have questions. Remember, questions. You can't have questions unless you do it. So don't stay in the maybes, just do it. All right, so these are different ways to get your colors. So this, you can see, you can go down the entire roster of that. You could also go over here and choose, no, I guess, wait, the color theme picker is the one that they stopped using? No. Which is the one that I thought they had stopped using it. So now this one's pretty cool. I don't have an image here open. Let me see if I can bring something. Let me see if I can do this one with you guys. Do we have any photos in here? I know that I have some photos from my photos. Why? I know that I have some photos, so let me see. Photoshop. Do I have any holiday motel? It's not a very good example. Give me a second. I'm trying to pop up a photo to insert a photo that we could use. Go to different class stuff that I have in Photoshop Shared Drive. I'm trying to remember. From here, I have some photos that I can use. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, so let's say this one that has a very defined set of colors. I'm going to place this one here for a second. Okay, so I just placed in a photograph, okay, that has some pretty defined sets of colors. Move it out of the way for a second. And I'm again working on these, and I'm selecting them because we have so many other colors here that I only want these to change. So I'm going to go back to my edit colors. Recolor artwork, and the color theme picker allows me to go in and choose things from a particular piece of art. So I clicked on that piece of art and see how it picked all colors from this piece of art. Isn't that pretty amazing? So if you're creating, say, a brochure or a magazine article or something, and this is going to be your main photograph, isn't it then cool? Then you can have the elements that make up that article, the background, the headlines and stuff like that, be colors that come already from this piece of art. Okay, so I don't know what photos you have available, if you can bring in any photos for something. I don't think I made any photos available in our you know what, that's not true. I think in our, if you go and say file place from our Illustrator, for some reason, I think in the Illustrator, I did put a photo or two because of when we do. Yeah, you might have some photos. Here's a JPEG. Bald eagle, what other, we have some. In fact, I believe the beach houses that I had you guys imitate from is a JPEG too. Because I use it as a background. So say that we go over here to the beach house PNG and place that. I'm going to place that there. Yeah, it's a PNG. I'll move this out of the way for a second. And I'm going to select all these guys and go to the recolor artwork, edit colors, recolor artwork. There you go. You guys have that one there, and you can bring in your color theme picker and then just choose that. And there you go. Now there you have a set of choices from this art piece. Now this has so many colors, it can't really give them all to you, but it shows like a representative set. I think it did a better job of this one because these were so very specific. But here it has so many that, you know, it gives you the idea of beachy tones. But yeah, it doesn't go into the nitty gritty of which one of these. Let's stick with that one. All right, so that's a whole bunch of different ways and ideas of how to do color. I'm not done. There's one more thing I want to do with you guys with color before we're done. But I want to give you guys a break because the alarm for break came a while ago. So let's do file save. Save where we're at. And let's see what time it is. It's 10:33. So let's do a 15-minute break until I'm having a blank. I'm not even able to think. I'm really distracted today. What's 15 minutes from now? 10 minutes would be 44 plus 34, 44 plus 5, that'd be 49, so 350. Is that right? 350? No.
Yes, that's right. I think that's right.
15 minutes from 334 to 350? No, I'm counting that wrong. 34, 44 plus 5. Yeah, wow. From 35 to 50 is 50 minutes. Okay. All right. If that's right, that's good. If not, correct me. Somehow that seems too much. Yeah, that's right. All right. See you guys at 350. I'm like, some numbers make sense, but that seems like it's 350 is the end of 4 and we're at the middle of 4. Okay. See you guys in a little. All right. All right. Is everyone back? Or heading back? Coming in? All right. I'm all tangled up. I have this headset has a really long cable. Really long cable. I was getting cut on everything. But I used to have a short one that was always stuck to the monitor, and then the Bluetooth wouldn't always work. So this is the solution. But today it got tangled up. Let me move it over a bit. All right. So here we are. I wanted to share with you guys as a reminder to please post things in the Padlet, which Saul has been doing as class goes along. And in case you have forgotten, let me give you the Padlet link right here in the chat. I also wanted to remind you that I am teaching in the fall, and registration started, God, I don't know, 10 days ago. I just haven't posted it because they're adding another class for me and they're trying to decide what to do. But anyway, I'll be teaching Photoshop and Illustrator, and they're adding a digital design techniques. But since that one's missing, I haven't like emailed everyone about it. The question as usual is in person or Zoom. And we've been requested to do our best to go in person, but then whenever I talk to people, they want to stay on Zoom. I exactly see, Monica, but there are people that are not showing up anymore because it's not in person anyway. So we're torn about that. But then suddenly yesterday we got the news that we're all back in high level of COVID. It's not as bad this version, but it's very infectious. So I don't know. I have kind of decided that my Adobe classes will stay on Zoom. I think that people who, you know, are working and have weird schedules might be able to connect more on Zoom than be there in person. My Mac classes, I'm trying to see if I can do them HiFlex. And if that works, then I might put these on HiFlex too. HiFlex means that you guys get to choose whether you want to go into class. I'll be there and I'll be Zooming from there for the people who want to stay home. And I'm not sure, I'll try it. At first, I didn't know how I was going to handle Zoom, and it's working fine. When I think of HiFlex, I'm not sure that I can handle all the people's needs. But then again, once I get accustomed, it'll probably work fine. So that might end up being the right solution. But anyway, right now, just letting you know that if you do want to sign up again for any of these courses, there's a missing one. I'll tell you as soon as it comes up, what that class will be and when it'll be given. But yeah, they'll stay online. I'm teaching much less classes in the fall because I teach a lot of credit classes in the fall. But then in spring, I go back to more non-credit. So anyway. All right. Oh, the last thing I wanted to show you, which I think you already know, but maybe you don't, because here I showed you how to recolor the whole artwork based on this one photo. But I did want to let you know that if you just want one color, just the regular eyedropper, and you click on a color in a photo, right there, it'll bring it up, right? So you can do that to pick the right tone of yellow, the left tone of yellow. I just like the fact that you can select a whole bunch and get like just a general spectrum of the colors. But if I wanted to go and just pick exactly the color of each one of these little houses and stuff, you can do that, right? So anyway, that's just one thing I wanted to add. All right, let me I like this little red more for the set of colors. Okay, so now that we have, I'm going to kind of move this one out of the way because we're not really using it. Now that we have this, I'm going to, I believe I've saved it already before we went on break, but in case we haven't, please save it again. Controller Command S. or go up to File, Save. And now let me Control minus, and here we have a whole bunch of colors that we've used, and yet that is nothing in comparison to, sorry, all the, where's my color palettes? Oh, I didn't bring the palettes here. For the palettes, I still have to select something and get the palettes. So let me go here. Here are the default swatches, not the palettes. Okay, default swatches. Which, by the way, and one last way to make a color, other than going to the whole color picker and choosing it from here, if when you have the color picker, you go over to this color mixer place, then you can just put your mouse down here and kind of guess about where you want it. So if you want it about there or about there, and then you can modify it again, you know, so it's just, you can do that without going all the way to the whole color picker. You can do that from here, from the palette thing. I think when you're really going to choose a color, you might, color picker is bigger, it gives you more subtlety, but you can just in the same palette do that. Okay. Now, over here, down at the bottom, you can show different swatches as well, like show all swatches is everything that I have in here. You can choose if you have hundreds of swatches, and you can make this bigger, by the way. In the bottom corner, bottom right corner, the more you started adding pictures, you might need to expand it. You know, maybe you have many other palettes in there. So you can say you want to see all your swatches, or you only want to see the color swatches. So see how it eliminated all the patterns and the dots and all that. Or you can go here and show only the gradient swatches. So you can, when you have a ton of stuff, make it be a little bit more focused. And these are the color groups. But let's head back to show all swatches. And for the most part, you want to have everything that you have in there. Now, what happens is if you want to make a set or a group. So these are the groups that we imported. But say that you just made a set. Remember, we made some colors of our own back here, which I've modified so many times already. But say that I wanted to choose these 4 that I had created, the ones with my name, right? See, that one used to be a yellow and now it's a lavender. Oh no, I changed it so many times that the names changed. That's the only one that really changed everything. So I can select it, hold my shift key. I'm selecting the first one, holding the shift key, and then I'm selecting my last one. So I've made a little selection of those. You can also select one, hold down the what is it for the PC? Is it the control? And yeah, for the PC it's control, for the Mac it's the command, and select some individual, like some groups, just like that, like that are not in a row. So the shift works when things are in a row. Okay, but if they're not in a row, control for the PC, and then you choose 1, 2, 3 different ones. So that's, so not right now, let's just do the group that we have, which in my case are in a row. And now from that group, once they're all selected, I can go to that little folder here and click on it, and it'll ask me to give it a name. So I'm going to call them Diana's colors, something like that. And from selected swatches, right, which is what this is, I'll make a group called Diana's colors, and I'll say okay. And so here that they've left that area. It's not like you have them duplicate. They've gone from that area and they're down here as Diana's swatches. So you've created your own little color group. Okay. And if you hover over this one, it says blueberry. You hover over this one, it says Diana's colors. Now, you can also make a group from things that are selected. So I can go over here and I can select this one and, and that one, and I'm holding the shift, and that one. And I know it looks like everything else in the middle has been selected, but no, the only thing selected are the ones that have these little boxes in the middle. And maybe I'm going to add that little color in there. So it's four colors that I've selected. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I can go back here and I can create a group, a new color group, but in this case from selected artwork. Right, and so I'm going to call this one Diana's other group. Just not very creative today. but this is from selected artwork. So you don't need to be choosing the colors. If you can't really distinguish which ones they are, but you know you like the 3 colors of those 3 boxes, you'll say, okay. And there you go. Now that's a group created out of those 4 boxes that I selected. And I had the shift key selected when I selected those 4. Okay, select one, hold down the shift key, and then select the other 4. So there you go. And then that is 3 things selected. And I'll go back to the fill, color group, and call this one also from selected artwork. Okay, and call this one number 3, whatever. All right, so there I've created these 3 groups directly from stuff that's in my selection, in my already selected, because the other ones I might have not used them yet, right? Maybe I didn't have them used, but they existed here as colors that I've created. But these have to be from things that I've already used. All right, so say that you used a set of beautiful colors for a flower, that you chose all these colors and you want to make, so you can select those through and call them my rose, and then just select rose tones or something like that. All right, so that's how you create those swatches. Now what's the point, or what's the good of them? First of all, the most traditional way of making this work, remember that all these colors, if I go to another file and I open another file, if I go to the swatch, they're all gone, right? That's the first thing you want to remember. They're all gone. I don't have them in another file. So if I wanted to bring them here, I'm going to undo this one because this one's RGB. So I'm going to just say no to that one for a second. Say that I wanted to bring one of these swatches over here, and all I want is one swatch. So this is Vera, how we were talking about last week. You said you had made one. So I'm going to go over here and say that I made this gradient that I really liked. If I just copy that box, not the color, now I'm just copying that object. Okay, just copy that object. And if I look over here, this is that, I think that's that gradient right there, the blue to green, right? So if I just copy that one, Control C, or I go up to edit copy, then I go back to the one I'm using right now. If I were to paste that in here, right, then now I can just create it as a gradient option for here. Okay, so now I call this one blue-green here. So that's usually easier than recreating it, right? So the place where you had that one, you can just copy that box, bring it in, and then I'm done. I'm not going to use this box here. I'll just delete it. But I have that gradient set up in my swatches. And so now you can apply it to the rocket or something if you created it somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Will it stay even after you've turned off Illustrator?
Yes. Yes.
Back to it? Okay.
Yes. Yes. All of these save in here. So if I were to save this document and close it and open it up again, yes, they all stay as long as they were created in this document. Okay. But on the other hand, I've created a lot of colors here that this other document doesn't have. If I go to the color palettes last week, I only had 2 or 3 gradients that I created that stayed in here, but they're not in this one here. Okay, none of those were in here and vice versa. So how do we transfer colors? So that's the big conversation we're going to have now. There's the new way, the old way, the way that works for everything, the way that works for storing a completed document and being able to have those colors available to you even, if you open the file, 3 years later. So first of all, if I close this file and open it 3 years later, all these color swatches will still be here. So that kind of lives with it, but it's all of them, including every single thing I haven't used, all of it, right? So that's fine. Maybe I want to keep it with everything because I want the possibility of keeping and changing all of this. But what if I only want to keep, it's only the swatches that I've created. And again, here it's a testing palette, you would see the reason, but what if I created a beautiful beach house or you know, a beautiful flower or whatever, and that's it. I just want to keep the colors that I used in that document. Then you can do that. You can eliminate all the rest. So one of the things you can do, let me, give me a second. Okay, so I can say select all unused colors. Okay, so I went, so this is the palette. This is the swatch palette. See this tiny little icon at the top right? Click on that. And you can say select all unused colors. So it's going in and out and getting rid of everything I have not used. So 2 of the color groups that I brought in, I didn't use at all. Then I used 1 from this group. I used those, but there's basically most of the default swatches I haven't used. All right. At that point, I can just put them all in the trash. So they're all selected for me. And then I can click trash. Now it's possible that I might not want to trash them all. I might go, well, you know, maybe I don't want all of them trash, but right now let's assume that that's what I want to do. So I can hit the delete swatches. And it says delete the swatch selection, and I'll go, yep. And however many colors I thought we had, in reality, this is it. This is what we have. The whole point is that I didn't make swatches out of every color that I have here. Because if you look at this set of colors, don't I seem to have more than what's here? I mean, I think I have more colors there than what's here. And these are the ones I just created based on swatches that I've used. So had I not just created those 3 groups, I would have only had like that. Because this is all I've used of what was in my swatches, but I have a ton of colors here that I never made into swatches. Does that make sense? So this, however useful to get rid of the stuff I haven't used, isn't really helpful for me to save the colors that I have used. Okay, so I'm gonna say that there's another way of creating. If I select all my swatches, all my artwork, so right now I'm going to do Control or Command A selects everything, or click a big box like this that covers everything. So that's another way to select everything, but the Control A is a much better idea. Actually, I don't want to select this. I don't know if this will confuse the issue. So I'm going to move that out of the way. I don't know if it'll confuse the issue or not, but just to make sure I won't select it. Okay, so now I've selected everything I have used. As opposed to only selecting what I haven't used, I got rid of what I haven't used. But now I'm going to go over here and I am going to create new color group, which is going to give me every single thing I've used, thus turning them into swatches. So I'm going to click a new color group from a selected artwork. And this is all used colors. You don't need to call it like that, but I'm trying to make it clear what this is. If it exists in my document, I have made a swatch for it. I'm going to say, okay. So now I truly do have the swatches that are used in this document. Does that make sense? So now if I want to reproduce this, I have all these little minor groups that I can now get rid of or not, but this truly is representative of every single swatch that's been used in this document. Now it is repetitive because I had it here before and I have it here again. I have it here before, I had it here again, because I had made some little groups where I've selected 1 or 2 or 1 or 2, 3, right? Now it's just the swatches. Notice that it doesn't include the patterns or the gradients, right? So this does keep the patterns and the gradients. So I think a good combination of both, you know, you play around until you get a bit of everything. You can now go back if you want and delete these. So I'm going to select from the top to the bottom, holding the shift, and I've selected all of these, which were the little individual ones, and I can delete that, delete those swatch selection. Yes. So I'm basically left with only that stuff, the patterns and the gradients. and the swatches that I've used. So I've really reduced this to only what's been used and the basic set that never goes away, which is the none white and black. Does that make sense? Any questions? Now, yeah. Your sound is off. Maybe you were trying to ask me something before and I was ignoring you. It's because your sound's been off.
Here we go.
Yes.
Okay, so I selected everything. I made my little my new library.
Yeah.
And then I clicked on a color swatch.
You colored.
Now everything is in one color. And I did Command
yes,
C,
because
and
if
that
you
didn't help.
yes, if you selected everything, right?
Yes.
And at that point you clicked on one.
Yeah.
Yes, everything. And then yeah, Control Command Z should work.
Nope, didn't do it.
Try it again. The command, the whole undo is a little bit tricky. If you've done something else in between,
I immediately went to that.
Try again. Hold down the, what are you, Command or Control? What are you, PC or Mac?
Command.
Command, and then try again. Do the Z a few more times.
Maybe you need
there it is. Sometimes you need to go back a few,
it was
a few more times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that maybe something you didn't consider an action, which was deselecting or selecting or like that is an action.
Okay.
So then you have to go back until it finally reaches that. Yeah. I was like, oh, what happened? No, it should, those things should work. Yeah. Otherwise it's like your whole document.
Okay.
Which in this case, one good thing, have you ever then a good reason to be saving a lot, you guys, is because say that for some reason something she did really isn't undoable, which is rare, but there are a few things that can't be undone that I can think of, not many, but then you can just close the file and open it again, and it open at the last time you saved it. But if you haven't saved for half an hour, you've lost half an hour worth of stuff. But if you save now computers do a better job of saving, people are forgetting. But my fingers for 20, 30 years that I've been doing this are trigger happy. I just do Command S, Command S, Command S all the time. Every 2 seconds, I just do Command S, Command S. Like I don't even think about it. I save my work. A few times when I'm purposely trying something new that I don't know if I want to keep, then I'll try to remind myself not to save it. I might just want to revert to that if something really bad happens. But for the most part, I always save so that worst case scenario, power outage, computers used to crash a lot. I don't know, from the time that I've been doing this, things was very unreliable. So you just save every 2 seconds, just in case something happens. I don't think my computer's crashed like that in a way to lose everything in years. And if it were to crash, many programs now, if the computer crashes or the program crashes, they save a recovered version. Like in the moment of the crash, they kind of save what you had at the moment. So I've really had to go and open an old file. Most of the times the recovered version that they save for you in the moment of the crash. But in case you don't, then you only lost it half an hour, 5 minutes versus half an hour, right? Anyway, so yeah. Okay, so there you go. That is now a much more reduced color palette. Can we just open the window of color swatches? This just gets to me that I can't see my color swatches without having to go in there. There's no color swatches window. Huh. That's interesting. I don't like that I have to be selecting something every time I have to pull up the color. It seems like it's slowing me down. Anyway, cool. No problem. Got it, Sonia. All right. So now what do we do with this reduced color palette? One of the things we can do, not much reduced, but specific to my art job, is I can go and save it as a new library. So the one thing I didn't want to necessarily stop and correct you when you were talking, Monica, but this we made as a color group. It's not a library yet, just a color group or a folder, if you want, of things. To turn it into a library, I can go over here to the swatch libraries, and I can save my swatches. save swatches. And it'll save, and if you look at the location it saves in, it's like an internal, I mean, this goes way deep into the Adobe Illustrator application settings. It goes deep in there. You don't even want to know where it goes right now. You just want to save it. So let's call this one Diana's sample colors, whatever. I'm Deanna's, I'm running out of names because these are all different names I've been using. Deanna's sample colors. Deanna's, let me call them Deanna's summer colors. Deanna's summer 2 colors. You can save them whatever name you want and say save. So those have been saved within my application, meaning Diana Musacchio's Illustrator application. So while I can open any other file now, so now let's do file, open, file new. Let's create a new file. Let's go back to print. You guys had print, but I had moved. So I'm going to go and let me go back to inches because I had changed my basics. Right? So I'm going to do again the good old, this 5 by 5 helps. 5 by 5. Okay, create. So I create a completely new document. And I make a little box that I want to start painting it. And I have my basic preset again, right? So now, is everyone following? Did I drop anyone? You're all fine. You saved your swatches to start with? Yep, right? Okay, so now I'll go over to my libraries and I go to user defined, and here it is, your colors. So I have my Diana Summer 2 colors, right? And they come in as a library. So they're not here yet, right? They're not here yet. This is my library. And I can, remember how we transferred them? That what did we have to do? Double click. Double click. Right there, when they all turn white. And I check, and there it is. That library has been transferred. Now, I had the patterns here that these I had to choose one by one. So I'm going to, in the Pantone color. So these I had to choose one by one. And that drove those over. So when I close this and I do that, then here you go. I have the patterns. There they are. Oh, it looks like I didn't bring the dot patterns. You go to Diana Summer 2 colors. I thought I had chosen a couple of different dot patterns, but anyway, I guess I hadn't. And now they're here. Now I have all my patterns that I used, my gradient that I used, plus all the saved palettes. Now, yes, some of these, I guess, repeat some of those, and I could have just said delete everything and only bring the ones that I had before. But anyway, this just incorporates it. Now, this, once again, works for me because it's my computer. But what if I need to send this over to Shayna or to Saul or to Vera?
Screen share, please.
I am screen sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you not seeing? Who's not seeing it? Who's not seeing the screen share, you guys?
I see it now.
Oh, got it.
Thank you.
No, thanks for telling me. As you all know, that 99% of the times I am not screen sharing when you say that. So thanks for the warning. All right. So this works for within my own self. So if I save this file now, that swatch set that I saved is a real file that I can keep together with my file. Like I can put it in a folder with my file and keep it for the future and stuff like that if I want to share it with someone else. That said, it's kind of unnecessary because the moment I open my file, there my colors will be. It's only if I create a new file and I go, God, remember those Jesus, those colors that I created for that beautiful flower, or the colors I created for that beach one, those are great. Maybe I want to use those colors for this. Then you can go and just put in those user defined, like it'll be months later when I go here to my colors. I don't, I'll just go in here and they've been saved as a library. So I don't, there they are. Like I created these 3 classes ago, 4 classes, like I create one of these each class. So if you count all the semesters, I've been creating a set of these every, however many semesters that takes care of, maybe for the last 3 years. So if I now decided to bring in the owl postcard colors, there they are, and I can bring them in. So anyway, that's useful for me. Now, but that's if I'm in my own, and open my own file in my own computer. Now, there's another way of sharing things, which is through the actual libraries. Let's wait for this libraries to pop up, which today on this slow day that we're having. Hello, there they come. These are also libraries that I've been saving for the last few classes. But if you have your own, this is I'm on VDI, so this is what's saved in my VDI. But if you guys have your own Photoshop subscription, or sorry, Creative Cloud, Illustrator Creative Cloud subscription, then you can start creating your own. When you don't have anything here, there's like a little art piece saying, please create a library, whatever. So say that you want to create a library for the beach artwork, for the rocket, or in this case, for the color samples, right? In my case, I have a folder that I've created for Illustrator class in the past, so I'm going to keep using that one. But how you would do that is say, create new library, right? And then call it Illustrator class, right? So I've already created it. Once you create it, it'll sit there. So I'm going to go and open my Illustrator class library. And in this case, and by the way, because of the way VDI works, my libraries are kind of disappear every now and then. But anyway, here are different pieces that I've put in the past. And now what I might want to do is I might want to save some of these. So for example, if I were to grab this and drag it in, it would save as, and I drag it in and dropped. Hello. It's really slow, my goodness. Hello. There it is. It's saved as a piece of art. You see that? So if I go to another file and I bring it out, there's that piece of art that I can drop. But one thing that's happening to me, and this does not happen to me in my regular Illustrator, is the artwork doesn't show. Those of you who are at home, do you see a little green box? Mm-hmm. Because here I'm having to guess. Like, I don't know what's been saved here. I'll bring it out and I'll find out. This is from another hello that I've saved in the past. And if I bring it out, hello. It's not, I don't even know what, maybe because I don't know what that one is. I'm gonna go ahead and right click and delete it. This is possible because of VDI that things kind of get corrupted. But so versus this, on the other hand, is a color that's been saved. So this is a piece of artwork that technically I should be seeing this green box so that I would know what I'm saving. I don't know why it's not showing it to me in this VDI mode. But you guys, I heard someone go yes, right? Or at least on your ones that you have at home, you do see the box, do you or not? No, you see a thing called artwork. Peggy's saying yes.
No, I don't see it.
You don't, you see artwork?
Your library, there's a filter, there's nothing in there because I've never saved before.
No, but if you do, okay, no, you need to do it. Grab one of your boxes and drag it out. Drag it in. So you need to save it. Does it save as this little artwork thing that it's doing for me, or does it save as a little green box?
Nope, it appears to go under that panel and nothing happens.
Well, you take it here and you let it go. Okay, so I'm going to grab this and take it here and see how my mouse turns into a plus. Once I let go in here, it copies over.
Oh,
Okay, so you need to drag it and drop it. Now, I thought Shayna, you gave me a thumbs up. Does that mean yours shows as
Yeah,
a
mine-
box?
mine shows
Yours
up.
too? Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
this is a VDI thing, because in my regular Illustrator, I see the box or the flower or the shape, right? For some reason
Yes.
in VDI, I just see the word artwork. Then it becomes a bit hard to, in the future, I have to bring everything in to see what it is, right? So, but that said, if you've created a beach house and you drag it in here, and then you can drag that whole beach house out for putting it on another a document. Okay, so that's the libraries, and that gets saved up in the cloud, in the Adobe cloud, which when you pay a subscription, which VDI people are not, it's a school and we're all having, we're using the same kind of library. But when you pay for the subscription, you have access to that cloud, the Creative Cloud, which I think it's 20 gigabytes of space or something like that. So it's really useful to put in elements that you're going to be using a lot, like the logos for the companies, the fonts, the colors and stuff. So how do we put a color? Not the whole, not the piece of art. This is just an object that's a square, but it could have been a flower. It could have been a beach house. It's just a box. How do we actually save just colors, right? So let's head over to the color palettes again. So I'm going to select the box again and go to my properties, to the fill. And then when I save a swatch, so say that I make one, I don't know, let's make a new color. Let me go and select this color. Something that I obviously don't have here. I don't have very bright colors. So this one will really stand out, because in this whole thing, I don't have any really intense pinks. Okay, so I'm gonna say, okay, so I'm pretty clear that this is a new one. Well, actually, I don't have one that's not so far off. So let me, I don't have any neon greens. Okay, so there you go. So that big neon green is clearly a new color. So when I go over here and save it as a swatch, right, it'll say, okay, that's good. Then I'll call it neon green. So I'm pretty clear that it's the new one. I'll give it an actual number. And then if I just say, okay, that's it. It just saves in here. But look how I can add it to my library. And to which library? I have a few. If you only have one, to your Illustrator class library. So I can say, okay. And now I've got my neon green color has been saved. Did that work for you guys?
yes.
So basically I took a swatch and I saved it back in properties. This time when I created it, I saved it to the library. Okay. Now, if all I do is I double click on an existing color, I can still now say, add that one to my Illustrator class. I can say, okay, and there it is. Now it's 3 cleans. So if I were to select all of these and go to properties, and the little plus sign isn't there because it's many colors at the same time. So it can't create one swatch out of that. But I could create a group like we have before. I'm going to say okay to that. And then that group, I can double click. It's not letting me, it's not how it goes. Can we from here? That'll let me do it user defined. How can I save it to the libraries? Give me a second. Right click and save to libraries. How about here? Yes. Add swatches and color groups to my current library. So I click on this one. Remember, my current library would be the one that I'm selecting, and I'm already in my Illustrator class libraries, right? So I'm going to make sure that's so. So then I'll go over here and add colors and groups. There was another place to find it, but no groups were added to your library. To be added, color groups must have a minimum of 1 color and maximum of 5 colors. Okay, I didn't know that. So there you go. Let me undo. I'm going to Command Z to get rid, Control Z to get rid of that group. And now I'm going to choose only the top 5 colors. And go here, make it a color group. Say okay. And then I'm going to save that to my libraries. And there we go. We selected a color group. Okay, did that work for you? So now I can go to my new document and I can drag in this whole set of colors into this palette. And so now I'll go select something and there it is. No. Other library, no. How did I bring it in? I mean, that's interesting. From the libraries, I can bring in the individual colors, but I think if I double click.
I think you have to left click or right click, sorry.
Add color, add theme, set colors, add group. New group from element, because it's taking it from here right now. Let me not select that. And add color to swatches. Does it add all of them? Let's find out. Go to my properties. No. It still doesn't have that set. Set color. Because here it's just add theme to swatches. It's not a theme, but maybe. Yes, add theme to swatches did it. I guess it's considered a theme because it's more than one. Like add color to swatches was all it needed to do for one color. But since what I just brought in was a whole group, it's assuming it's a theme. Okay, so you right click and say add theme to swatches. But these that are individuals, I can just right click and say add color to swatches. I just had always brought in colors, individual colors, and I had never had to bring in a theme and a group. So I didn't know that it would be different. So yeah, it's add theme to swatches. Now, I kind of find that the easiest thing to do, I personally do it in my personal libraries. I would have just grabbed these 4 and I would just thrown them in there. And I would be able to see that those 4 are, you know, sorry, these 4. And then I would take them over and why am I not getting out for? My computer is, it's not, it's really weird. It's lagging to the point of almost unusability. It's driving me crazy here. Let me select these 4 again. Okay. And it's just easier to say add element. So then it just added that. But I tried to drag it over. And when I go over to the next one, I just drag it out and it's just brought the 5 boxes. Okay. And that in and of itself brings the colors in. But so if you're having a hard time dragging it in there like I just was because just the computer's slow or whatever, then whatever you select, you can actually then just go to this plus sign and just say add elements, which to me takes longer normally than just dragging it in. But when it's not responding like right now, then that's a good way to do it. Okay. All right. Now, what you can do is select, like I can select these 4 elements that I'm not seeing right now and make a group out of them and call them all, you know, whatever these are colors from class, right? So then that's a subset in my libraries. Does that make sense? So you can have all the elements of the beach house, and then you create a different beach house, but you bring in the surfboard, or you bring in the, I don't know. So you spent all this time making that little life, what are these called? Lifesavers. Then you select that little group lifesaver, drag it into the library. And then you select, here you have more lemons. Then you select the beach ball. And then you select the surfboard. And then you select the anchor. And then you select the little north-south wind vane. You select the little individual pieces, put them in your library. And then in your library, you just, let me go back here. And then in your library, you just group all those elements and call them beach house elements, right? So that you don't have, for a point, you can have 100 elements in there, right? So it'll be hard to find, search your library. So you just have beach house elements. And so the next time you're doing a completely different drawing, but hey, I've already made a beach ball. Let me grab that beach ball, change its colors, and now it exists for this drawing. So you begin to, if you're someone who does things that are like, you know, Saul has been making all this different stuff for us. And if you look at, he's been in a few of my other classes, in my Photoshop, he keeps posting things. He's just like a churning out stuff. I'm very amazed. So you start creating those elements, like the turrets that you created just now. For one thing, you might later just save it and repurpose it for something else. Or maybe not the turrets, but like this little thing that you're creating in there as a decoration, you can then bring and put out in some other place, or this little pergola, or, you know, stuff like that. So you can repurpose your elements. Here's the robot that you made the other day. Maybe you just have a little gift package that you had made for another art piece, and you just drop it in here and change its color. Now it's part of the robot, right? Or maybe you use this little thingy that you made as an antenna here. You use it as the top of one of the Taj Mahal elements. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing out and inventing here. But you become a bit more efficient, because if you're the one creating the art, it'll have your style, your look, and you can maybe recreate parts and pieces. You go, I made a broom once. What if that broom turns into a rake? Drag it out, right? So libraries are really useful for that, because you don't want to have to be remembering what the artwork was. What was that called where I made all those beach houses? Because maybe you called it class sample 3 and you didn't call it beach house, and you have to go find all your files and figure out which class sample 3 had all your beach houses, right? So having those elements in the library well labeled makes future work easier. And in this case, colors. And so this would be something you would want to do if you're working on, say, your business, and you choose a subset of, you know, 3 main colors and 10 general colors of the ones that you're always going to be using. So you save the colors and the color groups, and you call it, you know, such and such businesses colors. And then, you know, when you create new elements, that everything will be harmonious when you put the 3 elements you made for them for 3 different products all together in one brochure. Guess what? It already all kind of works, because you were basing yourself off of a similar set of colors. All right. So that doesn't mean you can't change, but I'm just saying, to make things kind of follow us in. All right, so that's mainly it for colors. I want us to now, let's save this file, and let's go ahead and open. No, let's go to, oh, you don't use Bridge. I haven't taught you to use Bridge in this class, right? So let me go to File Open. I decided not to use Bridge at the beginning for this class, so I need to see it this way. One of these, so go to the class files, right? And I'm trying to remember, right, without seeing them, just from file names. I've never really, okay. So let's use this orchard grouped, which is something we worked with last class, but we're going to use it for something else. So go to orchard grouped. I'm going to sit there while you all find it. Okay. And then say open. Right. So last class I had people make these, like this time I had you guys do birds, beaches. Last time I had everyone create some of these birds and butterflies and things like that. So one thing I hadn't really taught you yet when I told you to do the beach birds, I hadn't really taught you at the point too much about grouping or compound elements. Had I showed you the grouping at the beginning, you guys? Yeah. Because I look at your files and they're all nicely grouped and stuff. All right. So here's an example where I'm going to go over here and say, well, what if I want to redo this, but I want to, sorry, this is about recoloring, right? So what if I want to redo these colors? If I go to this file, let me select one of these things and I go to the colors in here, I don't have any kind of subset here. The colors were used and weren't saved. It's, mainly the basic colors that were used. So if I were to want to save anything color-wise here, I would have to create that, right? But right now, that's not the point. Right now, what I want is to recolor this artwork. So if I go to edit colors, oh, I need to select my stuff, sorry. Select all my work. So I'm going to, and do I have them unlocked? Yeah, I think the hand is locked. That's why I didn't get selected. Okay, so then I go to edit. Now you're seeing this kind of in real life. Move this over a bit. Now this is where you have an actual piece of art where if you start moving this around, you create something that could look like a plan B or another version just by, spinning the wheel, or beginning to be more specific and going darker, lighter, much more murky, whatever. This is like horror tree. Birds of trees that are about to attack you. Anyway, or much brighter and happy and that kind of thing. Right. So just to see in the world of actual art, how it works. Now, for some of these things, it might work really well and for others not. Like here, automatically, you're getting choices of green that make this bird not work. So then you have to go and go, well, okay, so if that's not going to work, maybe I need to grab whatever this green is and move it over and unlock it, right? Actually, from there, greens, and you have to unlock it, and then you go, okay, so this main little wing green is going to have to go and be red. And so now you see the red working against the green, right? So the automatic colors at first work to change them. Then you go to the purples and you go, okay, I'm going to have to change one of these purples and make it be green as well. So now you begin to see it, or no, green and purple don't work. Okay, how about yellow? So on and so forth. All right, so that's in the small version. I wanted to show you one last thing with color, is that this small version can be used in advanced options down at the bottom. So if you click on advanced options, this is the big recolor artwork window. And just about everything under the sun can be changed here. So for example, here it's showing the current color, right? And these were the colors that we had at the beginning, have been changed to these. So everything that used to be red has been turned into purple, right? So the original red portions that are now purple, what if I didn't want them purple? Well, I can double click to edit this color and say anything that's now purple, I really want it to be, I don't know, bright green. And then you say, okay. So then you, that way, edit the colors that have been chosen. And everything that was dark orange is now light purple. And you go, well, instead of light purple, I want them to be, I don't know, blue, right? So you can be more specific at what you're choosing. Okay, so this here is the original colors, just so you know, the original colors that this whole document started at. And this is you saying, okay, what used to be yellow, make it now whatever. Now I'm going to make yellow, whatever used to be yellow, bright pink. Okay, so you get to change individually. You can also use all the random changes over here. This is, I rarely do the random and let the computer change for me, but this one's good. Click on the colors above to find them in the artwork. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to say, where is this brown? I don't see it. Oh, that's where that brown is. Okay. Yeah, it used to be green. I don't really like this brown. Let's double click. Now, if I don't want to double click and I click on this little arrow next to it, then I get scales, tints, that kind of thing, different shadings. Let me just double click and choose something that doesn't look like poopy. And there we go. Okay. So sometimes you don't know where that color is. And so that's really useful. Okay. So where's this one? Click on that. Oh yeah. Okay. So that's the one that you're talking about. It used to be purple and now it's coming blue. That's okay. Blue's fine for that color and you move on. All right. So this is really useful. You can also modify it over here. You can just change the color in this area. You can use also the things that you signed before, the harmony rules, all that kind of thing is available here. So pretty much you have everything you had before, but you have a couple more tools. All right. So this is the color you're targeting. This is the color, you know, you might go, okay, that's the color you're targeting. What if I want it to be bright pink? So we'll click it from there based on this harmony or based on triad, then that original color, now you turn into purple from the triad, whatever. So basically keep playing with this. There's so many options, right? There's so many choices based on stuff that you can play around it. Okay. Color reduction options. I don't know about this one. Limit to the library. I guess you can choose a certain library of colors. So maybe I want to, this one I didn't know. So say you want to make all these colors be, let's go back to one of these art histories to the Renaissance color, the Middle Ages colors. You say, okay, does it then change it all into Middle Age colors? Yeah, which were only these three. I'll say, okay. And no, that didn't work. So yeah, I don't know. That limited color work, I don't know why. I've not used that one before, so let me try that one again. I said use a library, Renaissance, and then I said okay. Maybe I said cancel instead of okay. No, I don't know why. The limit colors to library. I don't know. I'm going to stop and guessing. I've never used it, so obviously it's not working. All right. Did that work for you guys? Have some fun? In the end, because I did that last thing, I didn't change my color. So let me choose something to change them to. You don't need to save this, but you can use it to play. I'm going to move everything around to that tone, and I'm going to say reset. I didn't like that. I'm going to go with that. There you go. So that's, I'm going to stick with that. So I've made all my colors, whatever they came out. All right. And again, you don't need to save this one. This was just for you to see it applied into what we did with little color boxes applied to actual work. All right. So how are we doing with time? Okay, just trying to remember when each class finishes. So we have half an hour, a bit more than half an hour. All right, I just wanted to see if I continued with some more of this or if I started something else. So I'm going to start something else. By the way, if you look at the layers in this case, I've actually, when I first used this artwork last class, I was trying to teach about grouping and stuff like that. Let me undo the colors because the colors that I chose don't have a very good contrast. It'll just be easier. I had just downloaded this as a sample file from someone and it wasn't very well structured. So this time after the class was over, I went ahead and structured it, but look at the layers. It's all still one layer. Go to layers, right? You open it up. You have a group of all the apples. So I could turn all the apples off. A group with all the birds. I can turn just the birds off. A group with the butterflies. A group with the leaves. A hand is just one thing. But say that I would want to modify just one apple. So here are all the apples. If I open up the group of apples, then each one of the little apples is its own little group, right? Mm-hmm. So say that I wanted this one. I click on that one. And that little thing selects that one. So maybe I can just recolor that one, right? whatever. I'm just saying, you could just change the colors on that one. So who remembers if I wanted to change the colors of that one, what to do? Because if I go now here and click on one color, the whole thing changes, right? So just as a reminder about what to do with groups, how would I change that group? What would be the right way to change that group's colors?
I'm gonna guess you ungroup it.
Thank you for saying that, Shayna, because the answer is no, don't ungroup it.
Okay.
I'm so glad because I'm so glad I asked the question then. Because if you ungroup it, what you risk is, and you can, by the way, it's not that it's so horrible to ungroup it, but the reason you don't want to ungroup it is because you've already created the perfect relationship between shine, one color, the other, the rails. And when you ungroup, you might move it around. And when these elements are supposed to be repetitive, you don't really want to be ruining that relationship. And in some place, sometimes it's extraordinarily important because the shape is made symmetrically and even moving an inch away, a quarter of an inch away. So you want to remember 2 options are always isolation mode or use the layers. Okay, so first isolation mode. I'm going to isolate this deep here by double clicking, double clicking, double clicking, double clicking, till I finally have nothing but this. Then I go to my colors. So I go to the colors over here and choose another color and make it totally different. So it's pretty clear. And then I hit escape. I have not had to alter the grouping, but I've changed one color. Right?
I was wondering what that isolation mode was for. Thank you.
Oh, didn't I teach you guys isolation mode? Maybe you missed that class. I didn't. I know that I've done it in the other class. Have I taught you here? Everyone else who's not Shayna, who might have missed the class, or not maybe Vera, who's learned it in the other class. Monica, this is your first class with me,
You
right?
mentioned it, but I would be hard pressed to remember where.
Okay, so maybe I need to explain it a little bit more. Okay, well, there, I'm so glad I asked that question. I had made the assumption that I had totally gone through isolation. I told you, normally I'm very clear of what I teach or not, but this time some things are blurring a little bit because it's, to me, it's kind of like a continuation. Okay, so there you go, isolation mode. I'm so glad I'm saying that. So now you select something that's grouped, right? Now, this the second way, and now I'll teach you more about isolation mode. Now that I know you don't know it, I'll spend some more time because it's really fabulous. But let me show you what my plan B would have been. You use the layers. So you go over here and you select that one apple, right? And then you open that group and you see that you have a little group that's a stem, one that's a leaf, once it's the flowers, you can select that, open that, and you go, okay, now I just want to change the bottom part. So now you select and see what I'm doing to select. I'm clicking over here on the right, and now I've selected only that gray. I kind of prefer this if you have a good structure. Isolation mode is faster, click a bunch of times, get it done. But with isolation mode, all the other colors go gray. So if you're trying to choose color, it's not that useful. If you want it to kind of work, if you know that you're choosing a red no matter what, then who cares? But in this way, if you have a good structure, then you can go down to the exact belly of the exact apple that you're trying to change, and then you change it. And meanwhile, you look, is this blue going to go well with that blue, or is this green going to go clash, or is that one going to, you know, so you can choose seeing the other side of it. Does that make sense? So now I don't have to be in that dark isolation mode where it colors it. So now there you go. I've managed to go inside of that group, but you need to understand and set up your layers correctly. If your layers are all over the place, like your little bits and pieces are all over the place, then it becomes much harder. I have been noticing, and I do really appreciate that some of you guys are doing a really good job of putting in all your layers. So if I double click in here, see how in the script, so to say, in the screenshot that Saul made, he's showing me his layers. And sometimes I'm seeing really good work with layers, and other times I'm seeing things that are kind of like loosey-goosey. So keep the best. So here you've got the flag all layered up. The steps have their own little layer. The frames, the grass has its own little layer. Now you might want to put all the elements of the background together in one group, right? So you have all of the background elements so it doesn't become so long. So then you have the windows and you have 2 window sets. So maybe later you might want to group all the windows into one thing called windows. So it depends on how much you want to detail, but see how you have a pretty, so here you have each little group. I think quite a few of you guys have been doing that. Here's Monica. Now, Monica, here you have things that are called door, and then you have all your little door bits and pieces. Then you have that little center thing, and you have all your little bits. Then you have the little door center thing, which if it were open, you'd see the little pieces. Then you have a little window. Here are the steps, okay? So you guys are doing great at creating groups. Those groups are going to be really helpful when you need to do this. So back to showing the whole thing. I'm going to turn on all the different art pieces. And yes, if I just want to go in there and say, I want to choose that beak and change it color, I can just put my mouse over that double beak, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click. And I'm going, each one of the steps of those groups is happening. The group, the birds, the final art. So these are all the individual pieces, but that's the easiest way to get to this piece. And then just go to properties and change it. I'm going to make that beak be something bizarre, so it's very clear, which is this little foliage thing, right? So I clearly am changing it. So it's turned into that little brown thing, and I hit the escape key. I'm out of there. I very quickly changed that beak, right? But I was hiding everything else. Had I instead got to layers, chosen my birds, right? And then I can select this little bird and double click just down to the level of that bird to see which one of these is. So that kind of can be helpful to use the isolation to discover, oh, which bird it was. Other than that, if you have called them by things or whatever, then you can see that clearly it's that bird. You click over here, that's your bird. So you open a little bit more. Now, when the elements are different, each one of these birds is different. This is easy to do, right? And then I go into the beak. And now that I have the beak selected, I go to my properties and I can now change, give it again, whatever normal, whatever color this beak was, I don't remember. I'm going to make it a gradient this time. Okay, so there's that beak. So I use the combination of isolation and layers. Now, what's harder though, is if it's identical items like the leaves, right? So if I turn everything else off just to make it clear, if I'm looking at the leaves, it's like, yeah, each one of the leaves is a group, but how in the world do I know how to get to each leaf? I don't know if I click on this, which one it is. Oh, there happened to be that one. So in this case, yeah, isolation mode. That's a leaf I want to change. Double click, and then you go, oh, that's the one. So, you know, both systems work depending on which one. If you have a lot of similar elements, you really have to use isolation mode. There's no way to distinguish one leaf from another. There's a bunch of them. All right, so have you guys been trying it as I speak? Going in and out of these elements. So if it's a well set up set of groups and layers will allow you to do more of the work without isolation mode. But there's times when isolation mode is your one and only solution, and that's fine, you know, because you know you could group leaves in groups of like 10. It just makes no sense. They're just all individual groups, and you're fine. Butterflies or birds, yeah, you can tell exactly which one it is because they were all different. But apples and leaves, it's a little bit harder. That said, there's only 5 apples and they each have a different direction. So yeah, you can kind of tell. The leaves, forget it. All right.
So Deanna, when you change the color of a beak, it changes the structure. Is that beak then excluded from the structure?
Oh, no. So I went and changed that beak, right? That one there. So if I look at it, it's still part of the structure. If I were to double click, it shows you first the main group, which is birds. That's the first double click, made everything else grayed out except for birds. Then I double click again, right? And now it isolates this bird from all the other birds. And then I double click again, and it gives me the beak within those birds, but it's still in that structure. None of the structure has changed. I go in and I let me give it one final bright purple or whatever color. So that's the beak it has right now. When I back out, I could actually back out individually here. I could just go back to my group. I could go back to all the birds. Like you can just change here what level you want to be at. And I can go back to birds and I can go back to the final art step by step there. And if I look at my birds, nothing has changed in the structure. If I open that little bird, there's the beak. So the beak is still there in its structure, but it's changed color.
Okay.
Okay. It's got
Okay.
nothing to do. And again, it would have been easier to come here and choose just the beaks. But again, these are easy to distinguish pieces when you have flowers or things like that. They're all the same, then you can't really distinguish. As I said, like the leaves. So then you really have to do isolation mode. But no, it's like you dig in deep, you change its color, and then you back out with the escape key, and you have altered it within its own structure, but you have not had to move it from its structure. So everything is still just as organized as before. Yeah. So it's hard to do the structure after the fact. I mean, it's not hard, it's harder to do the structure after the fact. So if you're building the house, right? Say that, let's go back to you guys' awesome houses here. I'll keep trying to choose different people's houses. Okay, so here you have, I don't see your layers, so I can't tell what you've done. But if all these things are loose right now, then the sky shows up like a little tiny box of gray, and the door shows like a little tiny box of green. Like they don't distinguish in shape so much. You know what I'm trying to say? So later, other than color, if you have two green things, it might be harder to tell. Maybe this shape might be able to be distinguished because it's got those little razor sharp edges. But things that are more like boxy, this boxy brown of the bottom of this house and this gray and this blue will just be boxes. So you'll have to use a lot of memory to remember what is what. Versus if the moment you're creating it, when you created that thing, you just labeled it sky. When you created that, you labeled it sand. When you create that box, you call it house, door, and that kind of thing. Then later you collect all the big pieces, you know, the red, the green, the white, the blue of the thing, and you call it house. Then you call it maybe brown house or greenhouse or whatever it is. Then it's easier later to go, oh, now I want a better color for that roof. So you go to that group, that's that house, you go into that roof and you change that roof, because by the time you have all 5 houses, it might be harder to remember which roof is which if it's all open and not well organized. And again, I'm not seeing your layers, so I don't know how organized you do have yours or not, but I have seen others and I've seen them pretty organized. So I remember this one here. So you have maybe some, oh, you have used different layers. Okay. I probably wouldn't have used different layers myself here, Shayna, but I'm for sure wouldn't have used different layers. Just because but that doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just how I work. And I remember when Saul first showed me his work, he had a lot of layers for each one of his elements as well. And I wanted to describe that in the industry and in general, how you work, layers are left for different elements. Like if you had text here that went, come to the, come vacation here or whatever, that would be like the text layer. And another would be the art layer. And another might be the formatting layer or stuff like that. So it's more for those kind of elements that you would use different, because you don't want to move all the art when you're moving your text. So you lock down that layer and then you do your text without affecting the elements and stuff like that. That's not to say that having different layers for each one might not work, but in which case double click that layer and call it greenhouse, blue house, green, whatever, red house. That would help too. When you have a ton of elements, maybe you can divide it into layers. In the end, it's just another bigger grouping. So it's not that different. But inside of that, you have good, fish, the door handle, the surfboard. So this is all part of one house. This is all part of another. So you could have had a super group of everything, or you could have layers. So that's fine. I have everything I see. I guess it's each artist. I've seen people who use layers more prodigally too. The one good or bad thing about layers, using different layers, is that all your guides and everything changes color. So let me show what I mean, which if you're not confused by it, that's fine. But if you are, See how over here on the left is showing blue little lines and here it's showing red lines and here it shows green lines. I mean, in a way that makes it easier to go, oh, all the green lines are this house, all the red ones are this house, all the blue ones are this house. So it might be a good idea, but, and let me show you now what I mean. I didn't mean to close that. I just wanted to move away, but now I did close it. So
You color those.
then over here, let me show you. So this is one layer, right? It's one layer, and see this little blue here. So if I were to use, let me just put rulers on this thing, Command R, or, oh no, I'm on the PC, Control R to add rulers, right? So Control R, or go to View and turn on rulers down there. Rulers, hide, turn on rulers if you like that. Otherwise it's Control R, Command R. Say that I put in a ruler here, right? See the color of that ruler, and the rulers would be if I want to, but this isn't one where geometry matters too much, but those are the colors of the rulers. When I make a selection, my boxes are blue, so there's like blue, green things happening. Now, let me make a new layer. Okay, so I'm going to make down here a new layer. Now see how the layer, I'm going to lock this layer down. When let me put something in this new layer. I don't know, let me grab some of these apples. Let me drag these apples. Oh, they're locked. Let me grab the apples and put them in that layer instead of having in this layer. Okay, and I'm gonna lock down this one. So now I've got my apples in the other layer. Now look what happens if I select this apple. See how now the lines are red, the bounding box is red. Okay, when I select and subselect, everything is red. So the colors of the elements change. In this case, the guides didn't, because I guess the guides are part of, let me make a guide in this group. So I'm making a guide in this, oh, the guides used to, so there it is, it did change color. So the guides are now red, right? So if I have blue, the guides in it for the next one are blue. If I change and make a new layer. So the elements is what we're talking about, kind of change their colors, which can be helpful because then you'll know this guide belongs to that layer and that guide belongs to that layer, or it might be problematic to keep changing the basic setup. You know what I'm trying to say? So you do you and figure out if one is more helpful than the other to have different, but just the elements are still the same, but the bounding boxes change. There's other things that change. For the most part, the Illustrator things that show you what's happening and what's not. If you've been accustomed all your life to see a bounding box as blue, it's like, oh, what's this little red thing that's happening here? Now, sometimes those colors tell you things, like if it's the bleed line or the guideline or the margin line, and you're accustomed that the bleed line is always red and the margin is green and the thing is blue, and then it all changes, it could be confusing. If you're not confused by that, then sure, use layers, use groups, it's all the same.
I only use the layers just because I'm out of habit. Because I'm used to doing like posters and business cards. So there was no reason for it. I just did it out of habit.
No, and it's like the way I use layers, and this is the way I use layers because this is how I learned, and the structure, you end up defining what works for you. I'll have a whole layer that's all my guidelines, like I'll have my columns, my lines, I have the structure of the document that's going to be invisible later, but it's going to inform the general layout, the style, the views. And so I have a whole layer for just structural elements. And then I'll have another layer for text, and I'll have another layer for graphics, and I'll have in that kind of thing. That's how it works for me. And that's how I've seen a lot of work set up. But, everyone's doing things their own way. And as long as you're never going to work with anyone else, that's fine. The question is, I used to work in a studio. I was art director of a studio, and we had 6 designers, and we had to create a way of structuring things that we all were able to work with together, right? And so we had to define a system. But if you're the only one working with your art, you're fine. Now, what I've received sometimes art from other people, like when I opened this one up, it's a sample file, and I opened it up to teach with. It was a disaster, and their leaves and birds and beaks were all over the place. It was really hard. And I don't think I have the sample here. Let me file open. But when I first received, I had a job. Did I put it in this artwork? Here. this is a job that I had to do eons ago. Here it said 2013. I'm gonna open it up. This is a job I had to do many years ago where someone designed this work and they had created a book in a certain format, right? And I think I've shown this before, but they had created a book and it was in one format, and now they needed to reformat it into, like, it was maybe horizontal. Now we had to make it a square book or a vertical book, and then we had to make an ebook out of it, and then we had to make an app for it to be interactive and stuff like that. So we had the same artwork that we had to recreate into many different positions and shapes, so to say, right? And it was a disaster because each one of these animals, there were a whole bunch of different animals, were not defined well. And so I spent hours, it was like a 40-page book, and each piece of art had been designed. Everything was scattered. I spent hours collecting every little tiny bit piece that created each animal and putting it together into something to call it bird. But look at all the pieces that went into this bird. Okay. I mean, hours of the time that they had to pay me to just organize the art to finally look at all the little bits and pieces that went into making this bird, right? So if I turn everything else off, it looks like there's a loose one here. In fact, where's this guy? Oh, so that's part of the eye. Somehow that one, no, I'm going to throw it back in there, right? Now, inside of this bird, if I were to want to change his eyes, I mean, the only way you can work on this thing is in isolation mode, because which of all these little bits and pieces is his eye, right? I would have to go in, double click, my way all the way in to finally discover, oh, that one's his eye or something like that. Command, let me go to Command plus. If I zoom in, I wasn't even touching the eye, I was touching that thing. So I'd have to zoom in 25 times until it finally come upon the isolation mode, right? But it was, I'm not going to minimize it. It was truly, I'm not going to call it hell, but it was hours and days that here the eye would have been the only blue thing. But here, and here you see the beak because it's colors, but look at all the feathers, right? Just forget about it. It was crazy. And I spent, that's the first time, that's when I learned the power of groups. Like before, I was a bit more loose about it. It's like, yeah, they're comfy. You never come back to the art. But then I did a lot of that. Like, yeah, we just like use other people's art. So when you're going to share your art, you're doing them a favor, you a favor. And in this case, we spent hours of billable time just organizing their work before we could even work with it, right? And then when you have that bird, you can go, okay, in this format, the bird needs to go over there because we're going to have to cut all that off. And you just move elements around much more easily if they're well grouped. Otherwise, I was picking up one feather at a time. Just forget about it. Okay. Anyway, so that's my little anecdote of why it helps. And I mean, this is an amazing job done by I always say it was a 13-year-old girl who did this. She created a whole book. I mean, I still have all the files, and there's turtles and flying. I mean, it's a great story. And then we made it interactive that if you would like click on the bird, it would tell you the history or the jungle it came from or that kind of thing. So it was a pretty cool project, but it all started with these like pieces of art that she just made, and we adults had to turn it into something usable, right? But it was great. She just like went and just drew it out and made these. I was very impressed by her. But she had no idea how to do things the right way. And so we had to do it for her. Anyway, enough said. Now this is an example of using a weird masking like survival masking technique to kind of, because we had to see the original position of this for the other thing had been different. So that's just to see it. Anyway, whatever. I don't even remember. I think I probably have somewhere all the original files of how it started and how we had to change it. All right, so I'm going to stop that. Save changes, no. Every now and then when for some reason the conversation leads into this, I'll show that example because it's so clear, right? But other than that, these elements are easier. There are not that many elements to this. So you know, you can still find your way around. Okay. So I'm going to turn this off and not save it because I don't want to have the second layer there. Save changes. No. All right. Vera, do you want to share your rocket so I can help you with the with that gradient. And then I think it's Monica, 2 people had asked about the wiggly lines, so we can work with those things. And then we have, so this is like, this
had
is the,
different
this is
versions.
this is the 15-minute mark where if you guys have questions for individual work and stuff like that, I can help you with. And maybe you can lead the class, Shayna, and show us how you did your little wiggly lines. I mean, she mentioned using the pencil and then just stroking, but I think I taught you guys about the pencil, right? How you can make it be more or less. Okay, just wanted to make sure. But yeah, I'd love it if you could just share your screen and demo. This is how people learn from each other, right? So as much as you answered in the Padlet, you can also share your file. Okay, yeah, Vera.
Okay, want to share my screen? Where's the?
Yeah, go ahead and share.
Okay,
All right.
here we're working with the one I distorted, and I attempted to get it again, and anyway, went back to the distorted one.
Both work.
So,
right. So choose one. Choose this little. Yeah, that one. Select that. That's up there.
This one here.
Yeah, that one. Select that, and let's make a gradient for that one that goes from gray to white to gray. So go ahead and first of all choose. Maybe you can just start by choosing the gradient tool, or go over to the. You remember where the you can go over there, or you remember where the gradient tool is. On the left side of all the toolbar. Yeah, choose a gradient tool. So there we already know that we're going to be making a gradient out of it. Okay. So then in this gradient, what you need to, I need to make this a little bit bigger. I'm having a hard time seeing. There we go. All right. So in your gradient slider, go ahead and select your gradient, click on that. And you need to move that white on the left side. You have a white point, right? Yeah. And you can do it over there in the art, or you can do it in the box. It doesn't matter. Move it all the way to the middle of this like surfboard looking shape, which is your rocket. Yeah, move it all the way to the middle.
I lose my rocket.
No, you're just, it's just painted with white. So relax now. Don't worry. Trust me. That's good for now. Now go to the end where you used to have the white, all the way on the left side, and click in there a little bit under it, Yeah, and now click. And a new colored point. Yeah, click. There, you've made a new color point. Drag it all the way to the end. And now you're going to double click on that little color point and choose black again. So double click on the, and then choose pure black. Yeah, perfect. So now you have the initial setup for the right colors, right? Now what's left for you to do is to give it the direction first. So how you give it the direction is you go and you just drag your mouse from left to right of, no. Put your mouse, no, don't touch the thing. Just with your mouse, click right where you are, a little bit further from the line so that you're not so near to the color point. Move down so you're not in the color point. Yeah. And then click down and drag across. Yeah. And that now, yes, there you go. A bit more. That's about right. No, a bit less. That's about right. Cool. Now you're left with a gradient that's right, except for you don't get, maybe you didn't want to get all the way to black, so that's fine. This is dark gray. If you were to want to get to all the way to grab, then those black points need to start. So you need to grab your mouse like, no, don't touch that. That mouse, yeah, the one that's like that little thing. Put it at the edge of the surfboard now. I'm calling it surfboard because that's the shape, it's the rocket. Click there, and now drag yourself parallel to this line that you made to the other end. Yeah, keep going. Just don't worry, drag. Yes, drag. And now touch the other end, stop there, and then put it in the right direction. So maybe move it up a little bit more, like move up that more, whatever, until you find, right, there you go. So now you have it going from end to end of your gradient, right? Before the black point was outside. Maybe you didn't need black for this rocket, but I'm just showing you how to make it work. Now, what's missing is the center point of between black and white, that little diamond that's above, So go to the little diamond between the black and the white. Yeah. And now drag that to the right. Yeah. Keep going. You're going to have a lot more white. There you go. And then you move, you choose how much, right? Depending on what color you want. And now go to the one diamond on the other side and move it maybe to the other side. And then you might decide that you didn't want to go all the way to black, that you just wanted to go to dark gray, in which case, yes, you need to go and click it. So anyway, that's good. But you might decide that you didn't want pure black. The way to fix that would be to go click out maybe a 1/4 inch away and now drag to the left. Yeah, click about, wait, don't click there. No, that was fine where it was. You want the black point to stay at the end. Yeah, so grab that black point and move it all the way to the end again, please. Yeah, because you don't want that. Okay, so now click where you are, which is a bit further, and now click and drag all the way to the left, parallel to where that line is. Keep going to the left, and bring it to past the surfboard. Yeah. And now instead of starting from black, your gradient starts from gray. Now you might want to grab those little diamonds and move a little bit more gray back in. So see, you just kind of modify. There you go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
this one stayed a little bit off. This last one is a bit off. See how the center point isn't straight. So you might want to click again. And so move away from the points of color. When you have that guy, yeah, click and then drag to the left. And now try to make it have the right angle. So maybe you have to move up high a bit more, up, keep going up, so that your white is parallel to the rocket. That's about more like it, yeah. Okay, cool. So there you have it. And then when you cut it off, stuff like that. All right.
All right. Thank you so much. That
You're
clarified.
welcome. You're welcome. Now, so you guys modify, right? What the edges are, where they start, where the angle is, and what that point for that gradient. In this case, the original sample had just a little bit of gray on the sides, a lot of white in the middle. All right, so Shayna, do you want to share and show us a little wiggly line? A la Shayna. There's nothing I like best than when I can get you guys to share your work. I had someone last class or 2 classes ago that had made a whole poster board for high school, and we were able to work with her stuff. I just really appreciate that. All right, so maybe you can show us the one that you did by isolation mode. Yeah, double click into it. And then maybe you can just draw one here on the side and people can learn. Okay, so yeah, you might want to just unlock the whole house. Great. So there's the group of all those wiggly lines. And there's one. Cool. You can hover over one of them and double click to do it in isolation mode. And click on one of them. So did you make the ones that you make are the light? I didn't know if you made the dark ones or the lighter ones. There you go. So you made the lighter ones and you put them on top of the dark because it could have been either way, right? Cool. So there's each one, but in this case, you had to make each one differently. I mean, maybe there's a pattern. Maybe you made 4 and then redid 4, or did you make each one individually?
Sorry, I was totally on mute and I was talking the whole time.
Oh,
Let me go back. I was distracted. So yeah, I literally just did this. I went to pencil tool.
you know what? Don't undo your work though. Say Command Z and get out so that you don't affect your, you don't want to ruin and have to then redo.
So I basically just
Yeah.
did, let's see. Yeah. Hold on. Let me do that again. That. And then, nope, that's not it.
You have to grab it from the end. Yeah, there.
There to there. Nope.
Yeah,
Got it. I got it. And then I just adjusted it to the frame, basically.
But by the way, did you notice that when she closed it, she touched her own beginning, which is the thing that was missing in the flag. So we're going to go and do that. And then, okay, undo that for a second and or give me a second. So then with the arrow, see the white arrow tool, the white arrow tool, she's going in and modifying and working things in and out until it kind of looks like what she wants. And then you filled it with the color you were choosing.
Yeah, basically that.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Fill it with the right color.
Yeah, let's do that. And that's nothing difficult.
Well, no, but nothing has to be difficult. When you guys first saw these beaches, did you think you could do them? Yet if you really look at the individual elements, they're not difficult. They're just applying all the different things that you've done. So it's a lot of combination. And this is just how to do something that's not regular. The rest of the elements are regular. This is not. And that's why the pencil becomes a really good way to do it. You could have done it with pencil. You could have done it with the pen tool or with the curvature tool for the flag, right? So now we're going to go and look at your flag for a second, Monica.
Okay.
And there you go. That's perfect. Then you just drag it up there.
Right.
That's your line. Did that help, Vera?
It did. It's a wiggly rectangle.
It's a drawn rectangle. And again, you can draw it many different ways. One perfect way is the pencil. So awesome. Thank you, Shayna. Do you want to share your flag, Monica?
Oh dear.
Well, I'm just dealing with the questions.
Let me see
You guys asked
where.
You guys asked the questions. I try to help.
So this would be in my files. So open reasons.
I'm going to show you another way you could do those jiggly lines, Vera, in a second if you have time. And if not, we don't have time today. Can you remind me at the beginning of next week, you all, that I can show you? I'm going to show you a way of doing some effects. And there's a way to do some effects that gives you those, starting with a square rectangle, wiggly lines beyond doing them. This is exactly right what you did, but there's another way that I can show you. Well,
I feel like there's like 5 different ways for everything.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to say. It's not like there's a way. Some things, yes. Select this for the bounding box. Yes, there's a way. But for the most part, same with Photoshop, you can achieve some effect so many different ways. I think that if you go to regular like material artists and watercolor painting a flower, you'll find that 5 watercolor artists paint their flower 5 different ways. All right, Monica.
Yeah, I can find my file.
Okay.
That's interesting. So
well, how about you show it to us next week if you haven't figured it out yet. But basically, the key was what Shayna did. Let me share really quickly. Let me just quickly share my screen. We have a couple more seconds here before I gotta go. I'm just going to use the same document. And here I have this one that's open, that's empty. So say that you said you'd made it with the pen tool, I believe, or the curvature tool or something like that. So let's just say that I did it with the curvature tool and I start here. And then I don't remember what the flag was like. It was kind of like a wavy thing like that. Oh, I shouldn't have a fill. Hold on. You at first don't want to have a fill because the fill goes crazy when you're first filling it. And so anyway, so I'm trying to remember, I don't know, the shape of the flag. I don't have it in front of me, so my brain isn't. So this is the thing. If I don't close it, see how that little circle that's happening at the bottom of my pen, that needs to be done. So say that yours has been left there, right there, and it's not closed. And now I hit escape, right? When you hit escape, you finish that element without closing it, right? So now when you try to fill it, the fill does some weird stuff because bad example. In this one, it didn't do weird stuff. It's almost closed. So I guess it didn't do weird stuff. But yeah, the fill could have tried to go from, you know what, you probably had not only one space that was empty, you probably made maybe separate lines.
I think I had 2 open spaces.
Yeah, so then if you created like from there to there to there, and now I'm gonna, this is the straight line, right? So, and then you created that there and there and there, which is another one in there. And you just like hit escape to disconnect them. And I'm exaggerating that. But if you try to fill these now, then they do fill in weird ways, right?
Right.
Because they fill each other. And then you're like, what's in between? It doesn't like fit them together. It's just kind of a weird thing. In this case, it's not so weird because I did one space, but if you have another space open here,
Right.
then I know, it's telling me it's time to be done with the class. I gotta listen to myself. So say that I had erased that, right? And then tried to fill that, then I again would have some weirdnesses. So then how do you join these things? There's many ways of joining them, but in this case, if you already had them created, you might try to go to the end. You have to select it first. Select that one and go back to that tool. And if you put your mouse right at the end of it, you can kind of pick it up and continue making it. But that won't join that one because that one's not selected, right? So I can continue making it, make my own, but I can't join myself to that one. But there is a thing called join, and it doesn't work that well, but you can go to edit text. I selected both of them, go to object and path join. And now it is one shape, but now you might be left with things that you need to fill like that and stuff like that. But then, and now that it is one shape, now you can go to the end of this bit, right? And grab it. You have to wait for that little line at the bottom that goes like that. And then I can join it and then close there. And then that's a complete element now. So you kind of join them and then try to fix the lines and the weird stuff. Or just do it again, but the shape, but no, just to keep your, from the beginning, your shape connected until you're done. Okay?
I, in the meantime, found my file and
you know what? I have only 10 minutes and
it's okay.
For better or for worse, given all the not so good news that I shared at the beginning, today is my mom's 89th birthday.
Today is my dad's birthday.
Oh, really? Nice.
He would have been 99.
99. So. Today is my 89th birthday and she's in Argentina and I'm about to call her before I start my afternoon class. So I need all my time to call her. Yes. So show us your flag and maybe by then you've worked it on, fixed it, and everyone keep working on your beach houses if you haven't yet. If you have something else you want to work on, Shayna, I don't have another example because I thought the beach houses would take a while forever. And keep working on them and post stuff in the Illustrator Padlet, and I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye guys.
Happy birthday to your mom.
Thank you.
Take care. Happy birthday to your dad.